Well, let's get this show on the road. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Let me welcome first Chelsea Watson. Who is the class representative for the class of 24.
Hey, Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if you stand back here, then they won't see the back of your head at home.
Oh, yeah, we don't
But
want
you
to
can
blind
stand
them.
like parallel to it.
Okay, good,
Like over
good. Thank
There
you.
you go.
Stage manager.
There you go.
So welcome all of you and welcome Chelsea. When we start off with the awards today, we're going to focus on those that have been earned this year, 2024. And so if you didn't pick up your award previously, you can see Cindy,
Yes.
who will provide that for you during the meeting or at our leisure. So let's start with,
Let's get rid of all the one that has the biggest spot.
well, I'm gonna get rid of Chelsea's first.
I was not able to attend graduation because my family had surprised me with a trip to Maine and with whale watching and wanting to be in National Park. So unfortunately, they didn't realize it was the same day as our graduation. So I was bummed, but at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to see humpbacks and meet whales and yeah, it's amazing.
No excuses, come forward, please.
Also, I have a conflict of interest that you find later on. Oh, look at that.
Well, I just need you to stand here so you can shake my hand and I can give this to you.
I'm sorry, I'm not ready.
Uh,
Don't want your back.
Along with here, hold your, hold that up. You got it? Okay, great.
Okay, hang on. Alright, okay, one,
Okay.
two, three, 1, 2, 3, thank you.
Great, thank you, congratulations.
So this is, she achieved both her initial training graduation and then also her certification.
And I'm pretty sure I just finished my other part for that route.
Yeah, she did, she took Amy for the route.
Yeah. Hey, great. Yeah,
I think we got it, yes.
good.
And then.
Who's
Linda-
next?
Linda's gonna be next. So yeah, we achieved all.
Wednesday. Hey. Congratulations, your bachelor's certification and your
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
and your yeah, yes, congratulations, thank you very much.
Then let's start off with route.
All right, here's next.
Next.
Bradley. Anderson, here, Jim, okay, come on up here. Congratulations for recertification this year.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, thank you.
Good job. Kirkwood, where that is. Debbie. Debbie Pissarro. It's on her recertification. Right, so, yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Congratulations. Jeremy Miller. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Amy. You know. It's a hard working woman.
Thank you, yes. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Good. Debbie Muskie? No, Jeanette Sims. Congratulations. Okay,
Ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
okay, and she also has her pin for 250 hours of service.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Good, good, thank you. Here comes, and one more time, Linda Daly, please go forward. Research education plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah. And let me get my mentor for plant propagation. There she is, Liz Smith. That has helped me out tremendously. And then Bill Burge overwhelmed me. Yeah, that's right.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, congratulations, appreciate it. All right. Hey. People I know pretty well. Greg Simmons for his recertification, for his Valsic pen. And I think you know a woman named Sally, who also earned hers.
Will you run into her at all?
Right.
I had a tough time prying myself from the porch this morning and Sally wasn't quite so dedicated.
Already throwing her under the bus. And, well, this is incredible. 5,000 hour service pen, lifetime number. Wow, Linda.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Right, 5,000 days.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for what you've done for our county.
Supposed to be a diamond.
Oh, there's really?
That's what they said.
Oh, I think.
That's what Michelle Packard said.
So that's it for recertification this year and milestone awards. You can, you're for any classmate, city hall.
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Great, great. You already sold it.
It's here. I was not writing myself a poem.
Yeah. And, Janet James is also, won the 250 hour. test. So, well, congratulations to all of you who won awards. I, really appreciate what you've done and our community, our chapter appreciates what you've done. Natural resources in this area. So great. So here we go with our different board reports.
Yeah, Julie and Patrick, also, those are the only two.
Yes,
Okay, thank
so
you.
far.
Oh, thank you.
Show my report out. As you know, the annual meeting is this year in October 24th in Sunday, the 27th in San Marcos. You have that slide? What she's going to show you for the next few slides. Something that state TMN put out. It's on our website, and I just wanted to bring your attention to it. On our website, you'll find an overall agenda overview. You'll find contests and awards. That's something we might want
Oops. Wait, just a second. I forgot to share. Sharing screen.
well,
There.
there we go. Just some visual aids here. Chapters to nominate people for the chapter advisor award. There's a chapter project fair. We can submit an entry. There is a video contest where Deanne, we can submit a video from our chapter. And there are also individual photo, arts, and media contests. More information on that to follow. All that is on the website. The meeting will be a chapter photo show where we designate one person. We think, Leanne, for that work, or you can designate somebody to collect 10 slides or 10 photos from our chapter to submit for the slideshow at the annual meeting. So thank you. There are, so there's information on the website about how to go about that process. And there's a calendar, Bridget,
The next slide.
or the next one. There we go. It just gives you dates when registration becomes available. You can call Embassy Suites and make a reservation now if you'd like to do that. That under TMN, so you get the rate for that. Registration begins in early August. Anyway, all these things are on the timeline. I'm not going to go through, but you can see those there, or you can see them in the President's report that will be printed and distributed to everyone. Questions about any of that?
I was gonna add that, I actually pulled up the agenda, it's online. So you can already go ahead and kind of plan, like what sessions you wanna see, and they've got some really good,
Right.
really good.
Yeah. of course.
I might want to chime in. Be sure you study that. This is what I do. I print it out. I love these conferences. Print out the long one. Pick out the ones you want. And when they open the registration on August 1st, you get in there because they close the sessions if they get full. And so now, does that really prevent you from going that day? Not really, but they do want to know that because they have these rooms. 25 people in this room or 100 people in that room. And so that's why they say that's how many participants. So they don't want 100 people showing up to a room that's only 25. So just word from the experienced.
I can add that, we've had, winners in the individual art, competition, including Al and, Linda Schwickheimer and maybe others, those are the two. I remember.
Yeah, it's a minute.
Yeah, so anyone who's interested, it's doable and you should talk to them.
Yeah, we have some talented artists in our chapter.
Oh, mine was not art.
Well, I'm in a broad category of artists.
It was that cold spirit.
That's right, it was a cold stone.
Yeah, winter fury.
Thank you. One thing that originally was going to be in the new business, but I thought since it's really a update to the our handbook, the COH, relates to the email that Chris sent some people, not last week or week before that, that deals with the order of application acceptance for initial training. For some reason, that was inadvertently left out of the new chapter operating handbook. And you'll see in the, what we want to do, what I'm suggesting we do is add that back since it was inadvertently left out of the update. There is Chris suggested we add eighth point in the priorities that dealt with out-of-state members or applicants. So that would be new if we were to add that. It's, you know, we have, I guess I'd say unfortunately, we've not had in a long time the full class complement to register for the class. Should we have a full complement of people from our region, people from Texas and the like, that might come into play. Applicants from out of state, but it's the last item on the priority list. If you do that, if we do that.
Does kind of change how we've been doing the roster for training, where we've been accepting first come, first served, pretty much with the concept that we're gonna be really lucky if we get 20.
Yeah,
So if you're really gonna impose a priority arrangement, then you can't really tell people that they've made it until you've seen all of the applicants who have applied. And then, you know, apply the priority listing to that to
Yeah.
see who might drop off.
yeah. In many ways, this is theoretical, since we've not recently achieved that number of 20 applicants for the class, or 20 people to actually register for the class.
I have no problem with putting it in the COH. I just don't think we should try to implement anything until we start experiencing a problem. You know, don't address the problem until a problem exists.
Yeah,
I think what she had mentioned in there is that there was a couple that is not in the area that did take the class and they aren't making the hours. She wanted the applicants to be accepted in this order, Mid-Coast area deferred from the previous year's training. Former members needing to retake the training, residents of our Mid-Coast area, other applicants from the previous year's training, applicants from adjacent counties with no TMN chapter, applicants from nearby communities that have a TMN chapter, and then the applicants from other areas of Texas.
so. Any more to add, Ian?
No, it's just, she was just saying that, remember, there's a couple that don't live, they're out of state. And they took up 2 spaces in a training class that could have gone to somebody who could be an active member.
But that's incorrect.
Is it?
There was not a full class, so
Okay.
we did not, correct me if I'm wrong, we did not send anybody away.
Okay, good.
So.
So.
It was getting last minute.
The week before.
Because we had a class size of 20, but we only had 18 in the class.
We were having a hard time getting answers from our waitlist people from last year, and ones that had already paid. That in some cases had already deferred for a year and then last minute deferred yet again. I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember if we actually could have filled 20 or if it was right there at the last minute. We already had materials made and we didn't want to try and push it when we were having so much difficulty just with the communication and everything. We left it at 18 just because that was adequate at least without trying to push anything.
I remember that we had the names of those people that we indicated they wanted to register. And I remember checking the mailbox up till the very last day to see if they ever submit an application.
But it would be helpful for potential, people that had to defer, if we had a deadline that they have to respond by. Because we had a couple that canceled, 2 or 3 days before the class, and that opened the spot that maybe we could have tried to fill. Where if we're holding it and waiting and they've submitted money and we're waiting, sometimes that occupies that spot, which I think is what happened this year.
I spoke to some individuals, they responded and they didn't get a response back. For our end,
Mhm.
and so they didn't know how to deal with it, and by the time. I don't know if they ever got a response back or not, but they asked me about it, I said, well, talk to the membership, or,
Right,
and I directed them to. Anyway, it was too late.
Yeah.
Background check and everything was just too late. So they're really disappointed, I hope they got it this year, I don't know.
yeah. I think coming up with a timeline for acceptance and
That would really-
projection would be important. Again, as Greg and both Bob said, this is a solution to a problem we don't have yet. And I'd like to have that problem, but we don't, so. What do you think? You wanna,
If we're gonna go ahead and make amendments, it would be worthwhile to include all the amendments that you think need to be done, including things like deadlines. I think there are deadlines already in the COH for some of these training things, so I don't know how those apply or don't apply to what we're trying to do with a priority list.
Yeah, I'd have to look those up and see what's actually spelled out clearly and what is not.
So,
well, what we could do today is exclude 0.8 that deals with out-of-state applicants and just reinsert what had been inadvertently excluded when we adopted the COH late last year. So we're just adding back what would normally have been here anyway. And if we want to deal with the out-of-state issue, we can do that when that gets to be an issue, if that gets to be an issue. What do you think about that?
I think that would be okay. I would say that we should though maybe articulate, not in the COH yet, but try some deadlines this next time, because as a person who's trying to watch what all the moving parts are, and I'm sure for you guys, I feel like maybe I don't know what the deadlines are yet. So I think that would be something that we should try, even if I wouldn't put it in COH yet, but for this next year, try to maybe come up with some stuff.
I think it would be useful.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if we give a little more structure, even on our side, how are we responding back to these people?
Yeah, especially if there's an
I know.
example where someone didn't hear that, right, are they providing that?
Right,
all of this is in the responsibility of membership director who's not here or not participating, so we're kind of flying blind.
Well, maybe, but you are right that she's not here.
No, I didn't know she
Yeah.
was not here. I thought maybe she was online.
Yeah.
But it's
So-
helpful to, like, put all this on the application so they know.
It's not on this application, online.
We're doing a quick search in the chapter handbook, and so far we haven't seen where there's a specific timeline for some of these decisions for the initial training class. We're just gonna do this. So there's probably an opportunity, we could take it offline, maybe call a proposal, like you mentioned, Cindy, and then, review that with membership and try it out. The
Yeah.
training class.
That's
I
what
think
I
it
was
would help
thinking.
give
That way that
more-
will help inform us, so we don't write something that isn't onerous and.
And you have the time to make the background checks, right? You do that part. We have the time to prep the right materials and the name tags, and we kind of know what's coming versus a day or two before trying to find out someone's not attending and then try to fill it very quickly.
Well, and it's interesting because VMS is going to change to where an applicant has to actually, if they're gonna do initial training, they're going to have to put in all their own data. I'm not gonna do it for them to start it. So they're going to have to submit some of this stuff to get the background check moving and stuff. I probably need to check with Dale Healing or someone just to see kind of when that's gonna be implemented, because that could also impact deadlines. So, just something,
Okay,
but I think it is, I agree, it's a membership issue and it's something, our membership item, not an issue, it's an item.
Yeah. well, you know, it's bigger than that. It's clearly in the membership category that affects initial training.
It affects VMS, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
so-
not even sure how this is gonna work yet, so.
Well, you know, maybe the way it works is we get people together that represent those different perspectives. And they develop a recommendation for us.
So changing this part of the COH would just be part of an amendment to the appendix that governs membership and training and the application. So the way amendments work in the COH, the board of directors can vote for that without having to go through a formal amendment process that we bring to the general membership and then
Right.
send into, state.
It would be nice if we were to do it all one time, but sometimes we just discover these, it's an issue. For example, back at our last election meeting, we discovered that the calendar on the appendix H differs from the calendar that's presented in the text in section 2, I believe it is. So when we run across a problem, we can try to fix it at that time. And hopefully we don't run any more problems, but we probably will. Yeah,
When they hit the submit button, where does it go to you, Cindy?
If they fill out the membership application, it pops into Woohoo and it goes to membership,
Oh,
and I can find a copy of it.
you can also, but it does go straight to membership.
It does go to membership.
So there, it just gotta stay up on top of it.
Well, it's interesting that, you know, I'm not gonna do that, but VMS has a whole lot of stuff about, we have members who are interested from way back. And I don't know how that factors into what happens in the meeting. Yeah.
so is there a motion to add back what was inadvertently left off?
I so move, I mean, it's good to have it in there. It's a problem, but when it does become a problem, we have guidelines in place.
Yeah. So that would exclude item 8. Applicants from out of state. It would be just the same wording that was in the PNP. That was inadvertently left out. So there's been a motion to approve that. Let's see, Amy shaking her head affirmative. I'll take that as a second. Is there any other discussion? Okay, with a motion made and seconded, all in favor of adding back what was inadvertently left out of the PNP? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, good. And Cindy helped me with my last point, which is your update on that required by the new VMS changes. And we're going to take our briefing lead from Cindy to let us know what those are and when they're effective. For example, the definition of what's an active member and an inactive member is changing. And that's causes a few wrinkles.
It does, and I guess, and then the timing of, we have one initial training member from this year who got halfway through and stopped attending. How do we classify that person based on, there's 3 different categories we could use. It seems like the state is trying to be more definitive about, you can't just let people, even people who graduated from the training, if they can't get certified, they want us to start really pushing, or they won't tell us, but they're saying you have to move them out of that at some point. And so we've always defined that, or at least this year, we defined that to be June, when the 2024, so my class of 2023 if they haven't certified yet by getting their 40 hours of volunteer and their 8 hours of AT, they should no longer be active after June of this year. We've looked at the 4 of them and it kind of just, it begs some questions. So there's some changes coming up within VMS. Some of it we can control still, but I think we just need to be aware, and I don't know, I could like write an email or something just to kind of let you guys know what we know so far. Dale Healing, who just transferred into ours, may actually help me do that because he's working on the VMS implementation. But I know I spend a little bit more time thinking about how should members be classified. Active is easy, but somebody can't be active without hours for a year. So then what do you make them? But I mean, I think it's a good cleanup. It's just to try to make sure that we really understand what our membership is. On the other hand, I think we really need to think about, are there some folks in some of these classes that if we just, and I think you guys are thinking about this, we could maybe reach out to them and they maybe just need a little extra help. Some of them may not, they have life events. And what's the right classification for that? So there is a lot going on.
So is the VMS changes being driven by Parks and Wildlife then?
Well, Parks and Wildlife and how they're modifying Samaritan, the software.
Yeah, because state level, at the point at which they were sending out these formal documents a year ago, were very comfortable with, if you were paying your dues, you were an active member. And you ought to be registering hours, but it wasn't a mandatory deal in order to be an active.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point because Chris has asked Dale that question in multiple different ways to try to figure out what the right answer is. I think I believe right now, if we push it, no one's going to say we have to do it. But they are putting out definitions. So it makes you think that let's just be prepared. But yeah. It's interesting, and I feel like a novice to it right now, whereas Chris is, you got lots of sensitivity about it, she's watching it hard, she's asking a lot of hard questions. By the time she pushed, I kind of felt like we had some flexibility, but I still have to decide what to do. So I'm probably gonna classify the person from this last class as interested. Okay, so they sit out there, I don't know if they're interested or not. And at some point we should clean that up. The people who don't pay their dues do become inactive. We do that already. And we've had 2 members come back, pay their dues, and they're active now. So some of I'm not alarmed about it. It's more just some clarity maybe from the board on what we want to do with people who are in the gray zone, especially the ones who finished their initial training, are charging hours, but may not be charging to the right category. So they're doing hours of volunteer service, but they don't do ATs. Or someone who does so many ATs, but may not know what volunteer service they need to do. It feels like we should try to figure out how to help those people. Or at least give them the chance, because they pay their dues, they're charging hours.
So
Yeah, but
they're
because they
looking-
didn't charge in the right category.
So they're looking to charge you as inactive if you're not recertifying each year?
If you don't no, it's the initial certification. It's your
Okay, right.
class, that class. If you charge hours, but you don't recertify after that,
Right,
you just need to charge some hours.
right.
So the one individual that dropped out of our class had a personal family emergency and knew they would not be able to participate for the remaining classes and was on track to get a certification. But he has, as you said, he's expressed interest in trying to attend next year as long as his situation is stabilized.
Okay,
So that interested category, I think is very appropriate for him. Because he communicated that to us and we can check in as we get a little closer, to see if he's still available to participate.
that's what I'm here, because he was so close.
Yeah, he was very close, but it was very,
I think you just need to be included with the people who have already paid but didn't take the class.
Yeah.
As being first priority for filling next year's class, and at least giving an opportunity, because I think you will take it.
Okay, I think that's good. So anyway, so some changes coming on VMS and, new status fields, they added a field. They gave us more clear definitions. So expect more to come. It doesn't feel, like I said, I don't get too upset about it. Chris does. So I follow her lead, let her lead out on
We've
that.
already been budgeting on waiting until, you know, graduation date for recertification, because the state wanted to use the commencement of initial training date with the idea.
Oh,
that,
right.
well, you could be doing all kinds of AT or volunteer while you're taking the class, which seemed, you know, really obtuse to me that these folks are already investing Thursday nights and Saturday all day,
It's hard.
10 sessions, in 4 months, and you expect to have, on top of that, an expectation of volunteer and AT, it just seemed ridiculous.
Yeah, so I do think
So
that's
we,
good.
we.
Well, and actually now, they say it's okay. So sometimes you have to take it with a grain of salt, if you ignore or choose that, they won't tell you no. I haven't been through an audit yet, so I might change my team.
Okay. Anything else you don't want to,
I don't
well,
think
well,
so,
we can do it during your report.
yeah, and I'm not even sure I'll do a report here.
Okay.
But you will come with that.
Sure. Yeah,
I'm still all these notes like this.
I'm just excited I know all the awards now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
bear with me.
Okay.
Okay, Bridget, Vice President's report, please.
Bridget, you're doing an impressive job up there, by the way.
I know, right? You don't know how much heartburn I've had over this, but it's working. Yay. Okay. All right. So first, the August meeting will be at Aransas National Wildlife Refuge. And our very own Sandra Lee, who's also a biologist with US Fish and Wildlife, she is going to give a presentation on the bat research, tricolor bat research. So I hope you'll join us then, August 9th or 10th? 10th, thank you. And the other thing I added on to my report was I've been working on the November meeting, mostly because of Debbie Min's suggestion about having it on oysters. And so I've put together this agenda, which has grown and continues to grow. Tracy Bennett, who's on the she's on the board of the Rockport Arts Center. Unfortunately, the Rockport Arts Center isn't available November 9th. And since this thing is kind of growing, because the Heart Research Institute, as is their name, does research. And I know there's some topics that they might want to present in addition to what's on this agenda here. So my idea, and I was going to talk to Debbie because she's the advanced training director, is to move this as a symposium or a seminar. And the Rockport Arts Center is available on the 16th of November. So that is kind of my current thinking, to move it to that Saturday. And since it will cost us money, I have $200 in my budget, I can spend that. Tracy graciously offered to pay the other $300 as a donation, but I've come up with a scheme of partnering with the Chamber of Commerce. And she thought that was a great idea because they have some hot funds and things like that. We would get, you know, publicity and invite, all of our chapter meetings are open to the public, so this wouldn't be opposed to that. And also maybe coordinate with the South Texas chapter, Master Naturalists, and the Galveston chapter, who all have an interest in oysters. So I think maybe that's the way I'm going to move unless somebody sees any opposition to that. I didn't really plan on putting on a seminar, but it's grown and I think it's very beneficial. There's some really great topics. Up in Matagorda Bay, RJ Shelley, who is, Amy's counterpart in Calhoun County. There's the, the Diane Wilson, Matagorda Bay Mitigation Trust, the $50 million she won from Formosa. Well, part of that money has gone to this project called Matagorda Bay Cooperative Development Project, which is RJ, it works with these oystermen to, they've gathered together as a group, a cooperative, to do oyster aquaculture. So in a sense, that is helping to protect the wild oysters, right? But retraining those people to do oyster aquaculture, which is a win, I think, for everybody. So that's one of the topics. And then Debbie has graciously offered to bring oysters. And RJ mentioned to me that Amy does oyster, what is it?
The sensory workshop.
Sensory workshop. So it's basically tasting oysters.
You learn, it works when you have the different varieties. So in addition to yours, we would probably need to bring in, another farm grains. And then what it is it's just, it's an experience because each oyster will have a distinct flavor based on where they are in the bay.
Yeah.
So it's not like compare and contrast.
Right.
But it is a distinctive flavor that you will be able to taste between the two different.
Right.
Like wine tasting. Yeah, it is very much like wine.
Like wine. Right.
Very much, yeah. Yeah.
So you can see how this thing has grown. And I'm all for it because I think it's an interesting topic. I hope you agree. So that's kind of what's in the plan. I have 1,000 different topics we can do for the chapter meeting. Or in lieu of that, we can just have a chapter meeting without an education program and just make the education program the following week. Does anybody have an opinion about that?
Well, I only get concerned when it's growing. So I think back to May and the Kirkwood tribute grew and was pretty long. So we just need to look at the whole time block that we have allocated. How do we maybe assemble?
Well, this would be in addition to, not
Well, again,
during.
but I thought one suggestion was to move the meeting to the.
No, actually, not move the meeting. Oh, sorry. In my brain, I had it, keep the meeting where it is. Move this as a separate event. Yeah. So actually, that would give you a lot more time for the
Sure,
meeting.
sure.
Greg, did you have?
No, I was just kind of a clarification that, yeah, people can come and go at a seminar, so.
Yeah, and sorry, I had separated the two in my head and didn't explain that. Okay, well, that's
Thank
what's up for me.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Elle?
Oh.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
That's a really clever way for, making Texas Master Naturalist Program more visible, even to our own community, to have events like that and create more interest.
Mhm.
If you're tasting oysters, people are gonna be curious.
If we could get oysters from Galveston too,
Yeah,
and from the South Texas chapter,
that would be
you have an oyster competition.
Yeah.
It would just be fun,
I'm not sure.
We have, oyster farmer friends in Galveston area and in Matagorda and, in the back of Copano. So I'm sure we could probably get a nice little sampling together.
How many licenses are there now? Do you know?
10.
I should, cause AJ told me yesterday, he had me cutting out dots to go on the map. I think there are 7 or 8.
Amy just said 10.
Yeah, there's 10 in the state right now, but there is a mile-long list
Oh,
in the process.
Yeah, wow.
okay.
It's a lot.
Put this in context, the tasting that they did in Galveston with Texas Foodways, I think they were charging $250 or something to attend, and they were way oversubscribed.
Yeah, And
So
that's-
you may be creating, a snowball that can easily get out of control unless you think on the front side, if you're gonna do this. How do you keep it restricted to a smaller group?
because that's like what we experienced at Oyster South, we had to pay $50
Yeah.
to do the
And I
sensory
think
work,
there were
which is
eight-
fair.
Yeah, I think so. 'Cause-
There were, yeah, and we got 2 each. It was a lot. I wouldn't say we could do that. We can scale it down.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, you're right. We just have a large crowd. It's gonna go.
Well, and another option is have people register for it and
Yeah.
pay, and because like some of us don't even like oysters, so, those people who really like them and want to do that, why not charge them, So, anyway,
Is that for the whole seminar or just for tasting?
no, just for the tasting.
Yeah.
I think the seminar should be free of charge, but if you want to partake in the oysters, I think
I think that's a
Fair.
good idea.
That's reasonable.
It's the only way you can limit it, yeah.
Yeah.
If we really want it.
Thank you, Bridget.
Okay.
Al?
Where should I stand, Bridget?
you can stand wherever you'd like.
Okay,
Do you have a,
no, I don't have it, I'm just reading.
oh, you don't have it, okay.
Okay, this is the secretary report for July 13th. The Mid-Coast Chapter Board of Directors meeting was held on Saturday, April 13th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the Fort O'Connor branch of Calhoun County Library at 506 West Main Street, Fort O'Connor, Texas 77982. The meeting was hybrid. A total of 19 members attended. Board members consisted of 7 in person and 7 using the OWL Zoom chat function, constituting a quorum. In addition, 5 members in good standing were in attendance. The minutes were posted on the chapter website on May 10th, 2024. And I hope you had a chance to read the minutes or look at them. And so, are there any corrections or additions? Is there anyone to move? Accept these minutes?
Second.
Thank you. Vote.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Folks, okay. Let's see, Julie, you're on line, I believe.
Okay, so,
Maybe on the PowerPoint one would be bigger, or you have the PDF one.
okay. Julie, can you say something so we can hear you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just speak a
Good.
little loud, or
Okay.
put your closer.
Yes,
Okay.
first time I use this on this machine.
So I cannot, I don't know how to show you and your report to the audience.
If I
So-
can share.
Okay, you can share.
I wonder if I can share. Do you see? I'm not sure how to do that though. Let's see.
Down at the lower corner, share screen, lower
Oh, I see.
button.
Oh, I have a bunch of stuff open. Let's see.
Yeah, you gotta pick the one
Board
you want.
meeting. Here it is.
Here, no.
Okay. Okay. That's my treasurer's report. And
Julie, could you just read the numbers?
yeah,
Or-
because I'm not able to scroll it for some
Mhm.
reason. Okay, so
And pull the card back.
Yeah, then the people online can't see you, it blocks the owl. But I can do that as,
I'm sorry, what? Can you see my screen?
yeah, we can, but it's very small here.
Okay,
So, and if you hit,
it's very small, huh?
if you hold down your control button and hit the plus key, You can make it, there you go. Yeah, you can make it bigger.
Is that better?
Do it again.
It's just like.
There you go.
Is that too big?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, yeah, and I can scroll now. That's good. Okay. All right, so our Prosperity Bank statement as of 6/1 was 43,000. And of course, we're keeping 20,000 as a contingency reserve, which I'll address later a little bit more in more detail. So that leaves us really 23,000 for operating. And we spent $405. So as of 6/30, we have 22,712, which is really operating bank balance. And then we move on to the P&L. Year-to-date revenue, 3,269. Total expenses, 4,360. So we have a loss of 1,091, which, as we all know, will be in a loss position until the plant sale. So that's just normal. Okay, and then on to some treasurer activities. I also purchased, and it was in my budget, I purchased a new laptop in May to replace the old one. And I successfully installed, I moved the C drive, I successfully installed Quicken or QuickBooks. So far, I haven't run into any, I did a parallel in May, and I haven't had any quirks. I have a little bit of problem getting that QuickBooks into my new laptop just because it's not supported, but as y'all know, Google is your friend, and I was able to get everything on. So far, no issues. I have the old one, here plugged in. And I guess we can discuss what to do with the old one, probably after the first of the year is what I'm thinking. I'll keep this here in case something happens. That'll give it a good 6 months paralleling. So then something else I found out with the new computer, I thought I was going to have a free Microsoft. What I found out was it is free, but it's a SharePoint, which means if you were a new business, that'd be great because you're starting from zero with files. However, I can't access my C drive. So all my old files are not accessible. So Microsoft can be purchased for $3 a month for a nonprofit, which is pretty good. It's all the Microsoft products. So for $3 a month, I've utilized that option, and so far so good. So I had to, submit our tax-free paper, and then they automatically bill me the $3 a month that comes straight out of the account. And here's some further info on the 20,000. I started researching some rates. Of course, there's a lot of promotion. There's some promotional rates out there, but the problem is we need a nonprofit business account. It kind of complicates it a little bit more. I like my Ally because they're high interest on, but you don't have to open a CD, but they do not do business accounts at all. It's all personal accounts. And then I contacted my credit union, and initially they told me we do small business, but we don't do nonprofit. And that was last week before the hurricane hit. And then she had called back on like Friday, which I didn't. I missed her call. I only heard her message when I was retrieving my messages. She talked to her manager, and they can do a nonprofit CDs. They also have promotional rates, and they're pretty competitive. They're $475, and that's what I'm finding out there. So they can do them. The only caveat is, which I haven't been able to contact her back because of the hurricane last week. I don't know if they will service the Rockport area, because credit unions are usually community based. So then when I was in town before the hurricane, I stopped in at Wells Fargo, and they will have promotional rates. They have some promotional rates, and that's why I went in there, because they do have the promotional. And they have 4 months and 7 months. They're pretty short term. And after they get out, 11th month, they start going down. Once again, I don't know how long these promotional rates will last. A little bit more complicated to open up an account. Of course, new signature cards, which we'll need at Prosperity anyway. And they do a background check on our company, on the chapter, but they need original copy of the articles of incorporation, which I don't have. I could try to locate them. I have a copy, or you can get a certificate of good standing from the state, which they all call certificate of account status, and it just verifies that we have paid all our taxes. And then it's for like $15, and they send you the certificate. So that's what Wells Fargo would need, and they are local. They're right in town. So Prosperity banks, they have CDs, but their rates, they're not promotional. And when I talked to, I can't remember her name, who I talked to, the one that did the CDs the signature cards, she says they really don't use or run promotional rates. So they're going to be, around 3.25, maybe 3.5. And they're not posted online. So you have to kind of call or go in, talk to them about it. So the two things to consider are, do we want to open up, go with a new bank for the CDs? Do we want to just stay with the one bank, go with a lower rate? All we would need is new signature cards at Prosperity. And the other one would be jumping more hoops. And I heard the other day, rates are probably going to go down like right before the election. And I don't know how long these promotional rates are going to last. So until I need to talk to a First Service and ask them if they will do Rockport accounts. Till I talk to them, I don't really have an answer, for the best way to go. But I wanted to update the board on what I've been researching. To me, the first thing is look at promotional rates is what I did. And then Wells Fargo came right up. So, and they're local. So, and then the last and final is, of course, the PO Box 761. Just a reminder. So I'm working out very well. The old one's locked up and not getting too much on 761. A lot of it is misdirected mail. People haven't updated their own mail addresses, addressed to them, but our PO box. So that's all we're getting right now. So that's it.
Please,
Anything?
Dr. Chris, certification and incorporation, I don't know where that document is, and I will look for it and I'll ask Chris about it.
Is this L?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking it might be with Ray because the copy I have has Ray's signature on it.
And
But I didn't want to even address it until, I brought it up.
Julie,
But it would be nice. It would be nice to have that like in the storage room, as original documents.
hey, Julie, if you
Yeah.
stop the screen, then you can see the room again.
No, I have a little sidebar it came up with when I started sharing.
Right. If you
Yeah.
stop,
there's writing up, I don't remember.
then it'll take over.
Does anybody have any feedback, thoughts on whether we should go to different institutions, financial institutions for rates? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Would you like to share with Julie now?
Only about Wells Fargo, I keep hearing rumblings here in Rockport.
I know.
Maybe closing that branch, and they have an appointment to go see somebody, and the ATM has issues about when it works and when it doesn't. I don't know if you're working with Pat Liscano at Prosperity, who is the president of the bank. She's a great supporter of ours and has been in the past a really useful person to know to cut through red tape or to get red tape handled. I can't speak to the rates of interest competitively, but that relationship has been pretty good in the past.
My thoughts are 3.5%, 4.5%, not much difference in $20,000. So do you want to jump through these hoops, or, and then you, like you were saying, you had this relationship with Prosperity. I've never talked to Pat. I want to say that lady's name was Victoria or something like that. I can't remember her name.
That was her name, Julie, and I
Yeah.
know, well, so we could get in to talk with her.
She's usually very accessible. and,
Uh-huh.
You know, we dealt with her for a construction loan, and from then on, when we go in the bank, she'd be waving at us from her president's office that oversees the front lobby.
Anybody else? Thank you, Julie.
Yep.
See, Dee's not here. Thanks for the Debbie.
I don't have a report, but I'm subject to question. There is a meeting coming up on July 18th on oyster farming 101 here at Agawam. And there'll be 3 speakers, aquaculture specialist, comes from the AgriLife extension agent, and someone from the Coconut Oyster Company will talk about how to become an oyster farmer in Texas. Start at 6.
Debbie, can you repeat that? I didn't hear all of it.
And it's on the calendar.
Just tell me what date it is. This month?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
101.
What time?
Is, well, it's stores open at 5:30, like for a meet and greet for this. And you start at 6. So.
I do think, did I put that one on?
Yeah, I can put it on the calendar.
Yeah,
I find it.
so it's on the calendar. And if I haven't sent out a communication, and I'll probably have to be today or something.
Thank you, Debbie. Hey, and Jeremy.
We're gonna go ahead and just share this one here, so we get set ahead of time.
You know, if y'all come up here, maybe keep it behind the owl. It'd be easier to see you.
You're about to see us on this camera.
Yeah, but you'll have to turn your sound off though.
Your microphone and your sound.
Yeah, the sound's off. I'm trying to get the video to show it, so here you go. Here we are. Okay, so share screen. Yeah. Right.
So, can you say a little more?
That good? Need more? All right. So to start with, since the last meeting, we had graduation, had a lot of people there. We really appreciate all the support for the potluck and to welcome all our new chapter members. We have 17 graduated out of 18. Everything went really well, and we really appreciate everyone's help.
And as we mentioned earlier, there will be one person deferring due to personal family emergency into next year's class. So that's the one other person.
So one of the things we have to do for this meeting is go over our actual spending versus the budget and make a recommendation for next year. This is all that stuff. We actually got lucky a little bit.
So just a reference, the left-hand column is the projected budget, and then the right-hand column is our actual spending, broken down by item. So we'll walk through that now.
Yeah, so we had $850 in the budget for the RV Katy. That's what they charged last year. They had boat problems, then we had secondary boat problems. And after a lot of scheduling and other issues, they actually found some money in their budget and comped the trip for us. as a thank you for kind of putting up with all of those problems. So we ended up having, a side of a chunk left over from that. Everything else though, it's pretty well on track from what we had expected.
So you can see the next line item is the books, we purchased the 19. We did get a few back, even one today that we'll be able to use for next year. So, we'll be ordering those late this year at the Master Naturalist, meeting, for the state, gathering. And so, you know, that will be a little bit less, but we will be spending that this year in prep for next year's class. And then additionally, we had some funding, marked for instructor fees and venues. We did not need those this year. So similarly to RV Katie, we did not have to spend those. We also put in some contingency fund in case prices were escalated or there were some additional fees not anticipated. Similarly, we did not have to spend that. For supplies and fees, we projected about 632. We spent 590. One of the benefits there is we did a lot of our printing on our computer. And so we used color printing for a few selective items that were beneficial. But we did a lot of black and white, and that did have some savings from previous year. Now, depending on initial training going forward, if you do printing, you know, there's a lot more fee or cost associated with that.
Yeah, and we do have a full case of paper that we only used a couple reams of, so we'll have that for the next few years.
Yeah,
To help kind of reduce those costs wherever we can.
we also have an inventory of what remains, so we had some additional name badges, binders, a few binders, some things like that, so we have an inventory. We were able to put quite a bit of that into our storage unit, but we do have a little bit at the house too, like the book we just got, to get that all together and ready for next year's class.
The only thing we don't really have in there right now is just the thank you pizza party for the ambassadors and training committee. That will still happen. We have not done it yet. Working on it. So that will also be included, but ultimately what we're looking at is this year, even if you were to add the $850 for the boat that we didn't have to spend, we'd still be right around our budget number, a little bit underneath it, so you're not at all worried about it. I think our recommendation for next year is gonna be to stick with the max 20 people in the class and 150 for the fee. It seems to be working. It gives us a little wiggle room. We aren't really going, this year, we definitely didn't go over the amount that we took in. But it seems effective. And we're not really having a hard time getting people for the class with that, so.
We also benchmarked it with other chapters across Texas, both last year and this year, and they're very similar in pricing. A few are a little bit less, a few are a little bit more, but we're kind of in that mid-average space, so we feel like that's still appropriate. And it's something that is affordable, but also a commitment then to each training that they're doing.
So is that something that needs to be voted on next year?
It does. How about?
We did last year.
Yeah. So
So our proposal for next year's class is the 3,800. That includes the contingency, and then noting that also next year we'll have the RVKD cost in there that we did not have to pay this year due to the grant and the generosity of.
and also recommendation to continue to fee.
Yeah.
And recommending, 100.
20 people, 150 for the actual training fee.
And I think you have opportunity to adjust your budget, it's really just the fee and the number of members that are.
That's the part we're gonna say.
Yeah, and our proposal for class size is to continue with the target 20. We find that's reasonable and can be accommodated at most of our venues. Knowing usually you're gonna have a couple people that won't be able to make it, but the class size, from the feedback we've processed from evaluation so far, still feels like the right fit. Any questions on our proposals?
We have a second first.
Who's the first? Who
Excuse me, do we have a first? We have a motion.
Yeah, we moved to.
Okay,
Okay, yeah.
and a second.
Oh, Amy, okay. I just hear voices behind.
And a second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'm just curious, how many of the 17 got state certified?
Yeah, I don't have that right now. I think it's at least 4. We had 2 at graduation. We've had at least 2 more.
Okay.
Yeah, you have 4.
Yeah, you have.
As of the end of
Oh, yeah.
Right, I was just curious.
Yeah, what, and I mean, I could tell you that there's probably about 3 or 4 more that I can see and seen. And then some I think will come along.
And when you getting the books back? For people.
People this spring?
Yeah, so like Bob had an extra one, that they weren't using, actually, it's still in brand new mint condition, so, they wanted to donate it back to the program, so that'll be one less book we have to buy for next year. Last year, Jeremy and I, you know, we each got one, but as a couple, we can just share one in our household, so we also turned one back in and said, hey, use this for next year's class, so we end up with.
At the moment, yeah, because we had originally planned to have either 21, maybe 22 books when we made our order last year. And then we, after that point, got several back. So we probably have, I'd have to look at the numbers again with this one, probably 7 or 8 already in stock, so we don't have to get too many for next year. Yeah, we don't want to really have a running stock of it.
No.
So we just adjust the order each time based on how many we have available.
Yeah, and if you have one to turn into us, great, we would use it, but yeah, get it to us sooner before that October date, so we can factor that into.
So we put it in at the state meeting, and that's when it gets picked up, so we get that promotional price for picking it up yourself.
We do also anticipate some of the 2025 fees starting, you know, late this year as we're ordering some of the materials and things like that. So, you know, even though we're under budget, we'll still be within our budget and starting to prep for that 2025 class and getting materials ready.
Any further questions, discussion? It's, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great, thank you very much.
I do have a question about evaluations, whether you compiled a report yet?
Yeah, so I'm about 35% through evaluations. I am combining them each into the session, as you did similar in previous years, just not quite done yet. Our goal over the next month is to meet with Chelsea as kind of a class rep, get a little bit of the feedback, the improvement suggestions, and then also get that feedback to each ambassador for each session. So we can start looking at next year's and engaging the ambassadors that are going to continue on. I think we've maybe got a few that are moving.
Yeah, there may be.
Stapleton is moving, that we're gonna have to see about backfilling, so if you're interested in doing ambassador program with initial training, let us know. But yeah, we're about 30% through that data, that data.
I just wanted to say how impressive it is that you can start with 18 and end with 17, the last one of whom had real reasons for leaving and is motivated to retake it. That's just phenomenal.
We got a
Retention.
really good class this time. I was all very interested and really, there were a couple that were kind of lagging behind at first, but they really picked it up and yeah, we had no problems toward the end. One person finished right at the last minute, but everybody else was great. And they all made it very clear that they wanted to make sure they did it. So we just worked with them and made it happen.
That's not only to, you know, their motivation and the good class, but to your program itself. So, very-
One other thing, I'm sorry. Thank you. So we have one other thing to share. Let's go to the next slide here. Oh. Whoa, too far. So. One moment. Okay. So we are expecting, so we want to continue the program, but we're gonna look to enlist an additional person to help us, knowing that we'll have a newborn as the program comes out. So we've got a couple of people in mind, but that's kind of our proposal.
Yeah, if anyone has any recommendations.
Get one more to help us.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely need someone to probably take point for the actual classes themselves at least, but we're definitely gonna help with planning and getting it all set up, so it's not necessarily, we need a full replacement right now, but we could really use an extra person.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Where did you find the time?
It wasn't easy. We actually went through IVF, so there were a lot of treatments that shot.
Been quite a process.
Yeah, I also needed the surgery, but we're really thankful.
Man.
Gosh, I'm crazy, you go along with the training will be easy after all. That's why we're trying to find a good fit for someone to be the extra person. In case it needs to be pushed more as they are the director with us in support. And kind of, we'll need to work that out, but. Yes, we definitely want to have the extra help for that and make sure that everything gets taken care of here, nothing gets missed.
So the new member of the Miller team, I can be that extra person.
And will not be receiving a vote.
That's too bad. Thank you. Great year this year, a little bit of one you got.
Thank you.
And, I've heard from members of the class. that spoke of how well you've done and how much they appreciate your leadership, guidance. Good. So, Greg.
Do you have a report?
Yeah, it's right there, the big old.
This one? Come here, no,
To the right. To the right.
right.
There. Can everybody read that? There you go, that's good, thank you. This is just a preliminary, BMS, report. I've been working with Cindy on, reporting categories where we can envision or visualize how we are volunteering. The colors are the pie slices are just our big reporting buckets, the largest of which is resource management. This is a total, and actually it's only through May. I'd like to do it twice a year, so January through June, and then July through December. This is about 6,000 plus hours for the first 5 months. So again, you see the big bucket resource management, 58% of that is Wings Rescue Center. Chapter business and, public outreach, field research, those are all comparable size buckets. Chapter business, 31% of that is initial training. 15% of that is the plant sale. Second half of the year, you'll see those reverse, right? There'll be a little bit of initial training. There'll be a lot of plant sale work second half of the year. Public outreach, field research, 59% of that is bird populations. We have active birders in the chapter, and that's how we do a lot of our field research. Technical guidance, nature public access, training, other organizations, that's clipped off. Something we use infrequently, San Antonio Bay Partnership is the majority of the other organizations. So what I've done is I've created some subcategories, but the way we report in BMS makes it kind of challenging. And that's where I'm working with Cindy is ways where we can subcategorize our volunteer activities, just to visualize how we're volunteering, look for opportunities. I think we're going to talk about retention, and one of my thoughts is that if there are group activities, that's a good way to engage people who are struggling to find ways to participate, where they can be on the list to contact them, let them know about an upcoming opportunity. It's always fun to do things as a group. So we can go to the second page. So again, this was first 5 months. I'm going to redo it for the first 6 months. One of my jobs is just to approve requests for either technical guidance if we're participating in other board of directors groups. We've only had one this year.
had 0 partnership requests this year. And about 15 volunteer opportunity requests. So far, I've had no draw on my $500 budget. My plans would be to, kind of segueing off that budget, to implement a chapter funding process that's patterned after the Cradle of Texas chapter, where they have a merit-based selection within their chapter from members that make proposals for a funding request. And for example, Vicki Wilson asked for $200 this year to for supplies for the Rockport Post Office pollinator garden. I did not approve that request. I felt like it was an unprecedented request. It was not a big group activity, and there were a lot of other people that were doing similar activities kind of on their own dime. So I didn't feel like it was appropriate this year. I do think it would be appropriate next year, that if we have a process where people who want money for small projects can make some proposals for funding. We just need to decide on criteria and amounts, and that's something that will come forward. I'm not ready to do that. I would like to update our partners, contacts and liaisons. It's kind of out of date. People at those partnerships have moved on. For example, Katie Swanson, she's now taken Jace Tunnel's job, so she might not be appropriate contact for Finney anymore. I don't know. And we need liaisons, I think, also within our partnership list. A lot of our partnerships don't have current or active liaisons to interact with our partners. So that's something that I want to work on. I want to update our MCTM pre-approved opportunities on the website. And I don't know if, will the BMS revamp affect reporting categories? That's a question that I
I
have.
don't know yet.
And I don't want to do anything until we do know. So that's something that I'm gonna kind of wait to see after the revamp, how VMS reporting is affected. The one recommendation that I do have is to fund the Monarch tagging project represented by, recommended by Patrick Hardigan for $250. The reason that I'm prepared to do that this year for Patrick, where I wasn't willing to do it for Vicky, is I see it as a little bit different, that this would be more of a group activity. As many people can participate in the tagging as they want. So that's the reason that I see a distinction. Patrick is on the call, Zoom, and is able to answer any questions if someone has a question about that Monarch tagging program or project. Patrick, are you here? Are you muted? Did you drop off?
Yeah.
There
Am
he
I
is.
here?
We
Okay.
can hear-
Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Okay, all right, I'm here to answer any questions.
and can you give it just like a 2-minute spiel?
Okay, I think so. So, we already have an existing program called it's the Mid-Coast Monarch Monitoring Project. So we've been doing field research on tracking the monarchs and the milkweeds for a couple of years now, but not doing the tagging. So I think at this point, because that's a really big data gap, especially the Texas Coastal Bend is a important flyway, and there's very, very little tagging data apparently happening in the Coastal Bend. So I think it's time to start tagging. So we would just add the tagging onto our existing field research project there. And I guess one thing I would really like, if possible, is everything I'm doing is in the Rockford area. it would really be nice to get some data from some of the northern counties, and particular researchers I've talked to say, well, we'd really like to get more data or some data from Jackson and Matagorda County, that area. So anyway, I was going to put out a request for volunteers after this board meeting just got approved to say, okay, we're going to add tagging to this existing project and see what sort of response we got. I do think we have some members who may have done tagging in the past, but I'd like this to be more of a organized, official part of the Master Naturalist project. There, it was less than 2 minutes.
Patrick, would you like to turn your camera on? Then we can see you.
I thought I had it on. Okay, I guess there it is. All right.
And so the $250 are just for mostly just for supplies that Patrick estimates we would need for the tagging project this year. Correct?
Yes. And maybe I'll just interject just background information. We had proposed doing this previously, but this is all done through Monarch Watch. So it's a tagging program through the Monarch Watch organization. So they didn't want any tagging done except during a very specific period previously. And we were interested in trying to tag for a longer period, including we've got either resident and or overwintering populations that we don't know hardly anything about. But the Monarch Watch didn't want us tagging those. They just wanted to tag the stuff that was going through in the fall. But they've loosened up on that now. They said, okay, if you want to tag outside our official monitoring period, we'll go with that there. So that was one of the reasons I'm proposing it now, because in the past they didn't want us tagging. They wanted everything finished by November, and we still have monarchs going through in November, December, and here in the winter time. So that's the reason why I'm asking for the starting it now instead of previously.
Will there be some special training, for it? Like how
Yes, part of the, if you do this, at a minimum, Monarch Watch has a set of 6 very short videos, basically train you how to do the tagging. So you would have to, so I was thinking if I get the response, I may actually set up doing a brief training course and say, okay, here's what we're going to do here. So, but yeah, at a minimum, yeah, if I send out the notification, I'll say, here's a minimum requirements to do this. You need to watch the six Monarch Watch videos to get familiarized with how this is done. And after that, it's mainly getting people willing to get out in the field and deal with the mosquitoes and chiggers and the weeds.
Patrick, I was wondering, how do you get your tags? Do you request the tags, or would you get them for?
I'm sorry, you cut off there at the end. But the tags are purchased from Monarch.
Okay, when I've got
you buy the tagging kits from Monarch.
Okay, when I've gotten tags in the past, you're not always guaranteed tags. They run out.
Okay, well, all right. I haven't ordered them yet because this project hasn't been officially approved, but so I guess I'll find out.
If you can request them for the chapter as opposed to each individual, because I know I hadn't gotten tags for a couple of years and I suddenly started getting them now, so.
Yeah, so it's part of the logistics. They want the tags to be in a very sequential order in your, so in a way they prefer, instead of the chapter buying 1,000 tags, they'd rather say each team gets 100 tags, something like that. I don't know if that makes sense there, but I mean, some of this is logistics. So my proposal at this point is whoever volunteers to basically lead, have a team that agrees to do the tagging, that they get a set of tags. I'll get a separate set. So we're not trying to figure out, oh, who's keeping track of the tags. This is more of a data collection thing, not a data management thing. The data obviously goes to Monarch Watch. So we can access their data when it's published, but yeah, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible for the volunteers.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Can you hear me, Patrick? This is Dale.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, in northern part, the northern chapters are in DeWitt County. Do you have a location set, or do we approach people? Like a Monarch Garden or a private ranch? I mean, how do you determine the location?
Well, that's the location is dictated partly by the monarchs and partly by what people have access to. You can do tagging anywhere you get the permission. Here in the Rockport area, we've been doing the monitoring at the Big Tree unit of Goose Island State Park for a couple of years. If you're doing it on state or federal land, certainly state, you have to get a scientific use permit. So I did acquire a scientific use permit to do tagging at the Big Tree unit of Goose Island. Otherwise, it's it's where the monarchs show up there, and if you can have access to it. So we've got sites here in Rockport, city parks, Lorenzo Pathway sites, and those you can just say, hey, I'm gonna watch for the monarchs there. The thing about monarchs, the focus is on the fall migrating ones. So a lot of times they move through with weather systems. So the best way to track monarchs is to watch the weather. And if you see a system coming through, then you say, okay, I'm gonna go out tomorrow because there might be a bunch of monarchs showing up tomorrow. You just do it on a set schedule. And I will do some set scheduled ones at Goose Island. But, if the weather is calm and there's no fronts, then you're probably not going to get many monarchs there. So since we're trying to add to this big data gap, where are the monarchs going through on the coast of Bend? I'm going to recommend you should be watching the weather system. Say, okay, or maybe you have previous knowledge. Well, I know they have passed, this is where they fly to, this is where they roost, areas with a lot of flowers, particularly like sunflowers. Looking for the habitat they're usually going to show up on, but it doesn't, other than the state parks, and I suspect the federal ones, I don't think you need to get all you need is permission from the landowner, or if it's right away along a road or something. Of course, you got to be careful. You can just do tagging there. I don't know. I don't know if I answered the question.
It kind of did, because Cuero used to be known as, it still is known as the wildflower capital of Texas. And we have a large migration that goes through there. And yeah, so I think I'd rather ask a private rancher than get this permit. Is the permit difficult to get?
No.
Or-
No. Well, I mean, it was a fairly tedious to fill out, but once you fill it out, they got back to me within 10 days and said, yep, it's approved. So I think they get a lot of requests for people doing activities like this. This is Parks and Wildlife. So I think they basically look at it and say, yep, we've seen this before, and they kind of rubber stamp it. The key thing I think with Parks and Wildlife, as long as it's a non-consumptive use, you're not collecting samples, you're not, you're just capturing the monarch and letting it go, then that doesn't raise any red flags. It's only if you start saying, hey, I'm going to collect some specimens for my studies. I think that's where it gets a little trickier.
I prefer public, so I get the public more involved in it rather than private. Well, private is easier, but public would be nice to get more people involved and more PR and whatnot. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think
So-
that's why we're probably gonna try to do this. It's like some of the city or Aransas Smith, city parks or Aransas Smith sites to publicize that. Aransas First has got some of our properties. So those are ones that are open to the public, and hopefully we could try to get some publicity. Say, hey, we're gonna conduct our monitoring this coming week. So yeah, that's why I need to have at least some scheduled events to let people know who are not members of the chapter to participate in a citizen science project.
Thank you.
So as I understand it, my $500 budget is contingent on board approval of individual opportunities. Because it's being approved, before opportunities have been identified.
Yes.
Yeah, this is 250 of my $500 budget that I am seeking board approval for. Any questions?
So is there a motion to approve, project director's request?
Move to approve.
A second,
Second.
all in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Right, yeah.
I sent one in earlier.
Yeah, there it is. Thank you, everyone, for sending the reports in.
Yes. Kind of threw it together last minute. So, if you go to the second slide, it really gets into much of what I've been kind of working on with Debbie Mims is the plant cell advertising. We're gonna do 2 10-foot by 4-foot banners on, one's gonna be on the airport fence. If you could move that, you're up to the top again. We chose the color palette that's very bright and that it's gonna be a very bright yellow sign because that's what people see most when they're driving. And that's why you see people in safety vests are wearing a bright neon color. So that will be on the fence at the airport, and Debbie did get approval for it. We also kind of trying to make the dates and the Aransas County Airport stand out on that. So we do have 1 10-foot by 4-foot banner that we're gonna have at the fence and the airport, but if anybody has any ideas on where we could put one in town, I would appreciate it. I could get, posts to put them up on, but we're gonna put it out starting 1 month before the plant sale. And so we've created I've also created a social media event on Facebook. It has all 3 dates on it based on their hours and times. And I'll start boosting those like we did last year. We came up with an advertising social media plan that will start that 1 month prior. We'll do social media press releases to all 8 county news affiliates. We're gonna get this week in the front pages of Corpus Christi Caller. And then I will boost the events like we did last year. Last year, we got up to 18,000 people, and the boosted events go to people, I can target like people that are specifically interested in gardening, plants, wildlife, hummingbirds. So it gets a specific audience. It just doesn't go out to, it'll go out to everybody, but and it's gonna go around 25-mile radiuses around San Antonio, Austin, Houston, Corpus Christi, and our whole count, our 8-county area. So we're gonna create signage for at the high school auditorium where the speakers are gonna be, telling people very simple, native plant sales, be very simple signs. Hope you had fun at your event. Please visit our plant sale at the airport and have a QR code on how to get there if they need it. I'll also start up sign up Genius like we did for our volunteer slots. It automatically gives you reminders. You can switch out and it gives you information on when to be there, what to do, that kind of thing. So that's what we've been doing for the plant sale. And if you'll go to the next one. I created 2 wing rescue engagement banners. Excuse me. One is for us to use, and I used it at Goose Island State Park for their nature fest, or what they had there. I think it was a name, I can't remember the name of it. And, so I made one for us and one for Wings to do as they go on the road, and they use their banner. They were the ones that used the banner at Goose Island State Park, and people, because they have a hard wooden one in their meeting place, but now they have an opportunity to take it out. So if you're doing any engagement with whatever you're doing and you would want to bring it out, that you're more than welcome to. And so the only other thing on the outreach I wanted to ask about is, do we want to do the feeders of the Bent Oaks Rookery Park again this year during the celebration? I ended up having to be the only person to feed the birds, and I'd have people call, and it's like, oh, the feeders are empty, and they were emptied every day, but I became pretty frustrated that it was not only myself doing it. So would really like to get a team, if we're gonna do the Bent Oaks, have some signage out there that says, go to the native plant cell. As at other homes, on the tour as well, they allow us to, by home. To visit the plant cell, especially any that are really high profile homes that people go to. I don't know what your thoughts are about the Bent Oaks. Anybody have any thoughts?
Dan, did other people sign up to help with the feeders?
Yeah, just kind of fell by the wayside. It's hot. We kept them up through the season though, too. We didn't just take them down because of the festival. You know, so I just, need to know if people wanna do it or not.
What kind of feeders are you talking about? Just the hummingbird one?
Yeah, it's just hummingbird feeder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have water, they have water there now, so you clean up and do all the sugar there.
And that's at,
The Bent Oak Rookery Park right there by, Garbaritas.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's one, so.
Where do they hang from?
Excuse me?
Up in the bent trees, the nesting trees?
Yeah, they went 10 feeders up, we have the posts and the feeders. All that supply was just going out there and with, soap and water, bucket, to clean up, and just mix some sugar water right there on the spot and refilling them.
Oh, okay.
So I'll put that out, and if we have enough people, it's just, I really like for us to stay on top of it.
Is that part of the sign up sheet stuff that you got for, let's say?
It was a separate one because I didn't want to get any, I don't want to take away from the plant sale really. And I thought, we were doing, engagement at the Bent Oaks too.
We include the monarch tent, which is not really ours, and we include the outreach table, which is technically not.
But- And now Patrick has a monarch table for our chapter at the plant sale, so I don't want to take people away from him. There is a great.
That's why you're doing it yourself, because you're not taking people.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I just don't know, I don't want to spread us thin, we're not a huge chapter, it's like, but I really enjoyed doing the Bent Oaks, but we couldn't do it for some reason this year, because my daughter's 40th birthday. But, I just, and I don't know either one.
If you include it as part of the option for people to sign up, if they don't sign up, then that's a sign that maybe you shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
And if you do sign up, then you can hold their feet to the fire.
right, I just don't, yeah. Do y'all think, people did show up to the, Bent Oaks is the first sign, the first home on the tour because it starts with a B. So we have a lot of people that show up there first. And we have little samplings of the native plants out there one year. It's just and we just stayed out for a couple hours in the morning. And just, I don't know,
well, later on on the agenda, we're gonna talk about engagement of our members.
Right.
And that could well be an opportunity to engage people.
It was
So I'd suggest we keep it on
keep it for now.
on the agenda for now, and let's figure out how we might be able to incorporate that into this engagement, pension program that we'll discuss.
Okay, sounds good. Well, just putting it out there, you know,
I'm glad
I don't want to take away volunteers for the plant cell itself. For, Debbie, you know, so,
Hey, this is Patrick. Could I ask a question?
We'll do both,
Yeah.
or people
second,
may want to do that. or
Hello?
not.
1 second, Patrick.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you physically can't, but you can sit by, you know, the oaks and, okay,
Okay,
all right.
Patrick has a question online here.
Yes.
Deanne, I was thinking, yeah, I know that's been a problem, getting enough people to help take care of those feeders, which is not trivial. You know, I think there are several feeders up at Linda Castro, and I was thinking Aransas Pathways was taking care of those. I'm trying to figure out if we can ask for some help from the actual entities who own and manage these places, like, you know, Bent Oaks, that's a city of Rockport Park.
City.
So I think we should ask the city of Rockport to help. Just a thought there.
I have an action item to call Gene with the Parks Department, it just never hurts to
Oh, he's
ask.
not,
About
Gene
ask-
is not there anymore. Gene's not there anymore. So, they've had a their change of staff again. So
I have a.
anyway, I was thinking Pathways took care of the ones at Linda Castro. I was trying to remember, did they do it or was it Master Naturals? Does anybody know?
I know one year I don't know what happened last year, I can't remember, I think the Pathways did it themselves last year, because they have another employee now. They didn't have.
Yeah, I
before.
know. They have
So,
yes. So
okay, well, I'll
Well-
just see, or maybe even I can find some Boy Scouts.
Yeah, so a couple resources, you might ask Keep Aransas County Beautiful.
Okay.
They're a volunteer organization.
Right.
And then, you know, you could maybe hit up some like Martha McLeod's group.
Yeah.
You know, they're active and into natures.
Environmental group. Okay,
And again, let's think about how we can add it for things that our members can do, not take them away from the plant sale, but add another activity that we'll be promoting
okay.
later on.
Thank you for the advice. I appreciate it. Nellie broke her foot this last week. I saw her just sit there at the art center for the newsletter. I just saw her at the art festival. So she's limping around right now, but she's said that she wants to do a newsletter soon and she just needs articles. So if you don't hide your light under that bushel basket, write an article and send it to her. She's also she's gonna be looking at the social media and any emails that come out from the chapter. On the website, Ray, it's interim, working on it, said it's running properly, the donation button is now working. He's setting up a needs criteria for a new webmaster. He wants to work on where the initiation, whoever's become a new chapter member, they could do their fee payable online. The only risk with that is you don't want them to pay until they're officially approved, or you'll end up having to reimburse people, or, you know, people fall out. So that's gonna have to be something that needs to be discussed with the new training people. So that just needs to be a discussion to have that he wants to have between the training directors, the membership director, and Elle as a treasurer. So that's something to consider on online payments. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to report.
Well, it's a pretty good report. Thank you very much. Yeah. Debbie, please.
My time,
Yeah.
Debbie has a document. Where should I go? Here?
So I don't remember where we were at the last board meeting, so some of this might be redundant. The plant sale lead team has been working to adapt to a change of venue. The venue was changed from the high school location at the Hummingbird Celebration to the Aransas County Airport hangar. The celebration will be, still the speakers will be at the high school, but the other activities will be happening at that hangar. Steve and Bill and I have visited that location and kind of eyeballed it to see what's gonna happen. We are gonna be in it's the hangar that's right next to the terminal. We're gonna be on the back side of that if you're, well, or the front side. If you go in the gate and you're facing the terminal, it is just to your left of the terminal. And we're gonna be on a grassy area there that should be good for afternoon sun. And there's plenty of room. We can really spread out. We're coming up with a new timeline, that's gonna, there are gonna be some adjustments so that we can make changes for delivery and setup of that event. The good news is we can get our plants delivered directly to the airport the week prior to the event. And so we won't have to be putting them in Liz's backyard and then taking them to the high school in the morning of the event on Friday and Saturday mornings. So this is gonna cut out some volunteer work. We're gonna have to, Deanne, we're gonna have to change our volunteer schedule because we're not gonna need a lot of the volunteers that we have, or we may need additional volunteers at other times. So I've got to take a really good hard look at that and what that's gonna look like. And we'll need to be working on that. I think we put our volunteer schedule out around the 1st of August or the middle of August.
I'll
So
send you
we'll-
a copy of what we did last year.
Yeah, we'll get it done before that. And then some other changes include we're not going to have that time before the actual event opens to have people coming and going. So we're going to have to move the pre-order pickup to actually occurring during the sale. So we can, we'll sort those, we'll accept the pre-orders and we'll sort them out and we'll stash them in a special location. Again, we won't have to be moving these things around. And I think there's less chance of things getting messed up or mixed up, and it should be better, but people will have to come to the actual sale to pick up their pre-orders. We are, as Deanne has talked about, we are boosting our advertising and marketing because we just don't know if people are going to want to go to the speakers at the high school and then get in their car and drive to the Hummer Mall at the new location. So we're going to try to really boost that and get people there. We have a backup plan. I didn't put in my report, but Carla Belair has offered to have an additional sale at her home, which is kind of a high visibility. She's on the street. I think it's Trailer, maybe right across from Ace Hardware, of any unsold plants. So that's another opportunity for us. I mean, you know, if we had a rain out event or something, that would be a nice little backup plan. We have, because we want to keep the costs down, because we don't know, you know, if we're going to have the same kind of traffic, we have really boosted the propagation efforts. And Liz Smith has taken that on, and she has really been communicating very well with the propagators. And we had a specific list of what we wanted to do. And she has gotten people to sign up to do specific things, like one person will grow a lot of something that they're good at. And we have, how many plants do we have on the list about now? Like 500 or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
And then,
For us and then.
plus Formosa, yeah, so 500 by members are being grown by members. And, plus, I think Formosa is growing, several hundred that they have. Our typical, number of plants at the plant sale is about 2,000 that we offer, so we could potentially have half of them grown, without cost to the chapter. So that's good, that's all good. We are talking about doing QR codes for plant information and adding those to the plants at the festival. And we are not going to print our handouts again this year. We are gonna use, we had a lot left over last year. We are gonna just use those again. If we need to make a few changes, we'll kind of look at that and see how different they are. If we need to add plants, we can just do that at a low cost. We're working on some additional signage at the sale to help communicate things like, is this plant gonna do well in your area? We found last year, especially with the milkweed, that people wanted to buy things, but they live in the hill country or they live in Dallas and they were here visiting, and we want them to be sure that they know what they can grow in their own areas. So we want to add some zone charts and things like that. We want to not have any miscommunication with people who buy their plants and set them here and say, I'll be back later. And then they get on a tour bus that doesn't come back until 7 o'clock that night. So we want to be sure that we have these things in black and white so that people know what to expect and we don't have those issues. So there were some things like that. We had that team meeting on June 29th. We discussed these changes. I have been having individual meetings with the team members, like Deanne and I got together. Of course, Liz and I have had lots of discussions. So that's happening up until the event. I'm not a real big believer on having meetings just for the sake of having meetings. We did have one to kind of get together and talk about all these changes together, but other than that, I think we do well with small committee meetings. During our group meeting, it was a consensus of the group to increase the prices of the 1 gallon plant from $9 to $10. And we are going to have a number of donated plants that are half gallon. Those are coming from Formosa. And we talked about charging $5 for those. And flats will be $50. We went up last year from $40 to $50 for the flats. And I don't think it caused any issues going up on that last year. So is that something that needs approval from the board to go up on that price or? And I mean, we don't know what we're going to be paying for these plants until we order them. The price list comes out every week and so we don't really know. So to make a decision early, may not be the best thing to do, but that's what we're thinking. So, and it doesn't have to be done at this board meeting. We have another one before, right? Or do we? It's September
No, the next one's October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Is there anybody that has any pricing? You're the one who is, dealing with the suppliers and stuff like that, so. I don't think it needs board approval for you to adjust. pricing however you think is
Okay,
best.
well, yeah, so
I would agree in that, but I'm just curious, is there anybody that has an objection to that?
And the thinking on that is if you go to buy a gallon plant, at the Plant Ladies or anywhere, it's like $13, $15. You're not gonna see very many that are in that $10 range, so we're still very competitive.
Yeah.
I don't think $1 is gonna be a factor.
It's an easy one.
Usually psychologically, when you hear $9, you think $10 anyway, right?
Yeah, and remember last year, people who bought and they paid in cash, they didn't want to change that, they don't, they were like, ah, they're in.
It's a nice, easy
So,
number.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I don't think they're.
Yeah.
I think we trust your judgment,
Okay.
yes, and your leadership, so.
Well, and the committee, I don't think there was a single person in the committee who thought that it was a bad idea to go up. One thing we're working on is, I don't know if Julie had time to do it, but we were looking into the hotspot for the Square system during the sale and whether we had one or, you know, whether we needed to figure that out. And the other thing is we are looking at how to use the high school students, because the only thing they did before was move the things from the staging location to the high school. So we don't have that this year. And Tracy Bennett kind of takes care of those kids and kind of tell them what to do. And so she was gonna look into that and see if there was another time slot that they could fill and come help us out. So that we have that continuity. And then we still are trying to figure out the best way to get our propagated plants over to the new venue, so it'll probably be, the big orders will probably go directly there at a specified time, and then the smaller groups just might have to get transported a couple of times, but we're trying to think about it all and
have
get it
water
all
there.
figured out ahead of time.
Do they have water there, an adequate water system?
They do. They have water, they have electricity, we should have some shade. We will be putting up tents again. We'll still need those in case of rain or, you know, when showers happen, people like to stand under a tent.
The high school kids trustworthy enough to take care of TNs, hummingbird feeders at Benno?
Yeah, I'll find somebody.
I don't think I would.
You know,
Oh, that's so
I mean, maybe, but they do better at group activities where you say, be here at a certain time. I mean, I'm sure there are responsible kids who would do that, but
I might find some homeschool.
I think there's better jobs for the high school kids. Questions, anything?
Jim,
I attended a show out there at the airport a few months ago. It was a historic aircraft. It was awesome. Even though I don't know anything about it, but I had never been out onto the airport area there before. I had no idea where to go. And I've, been here for a few years. So in Deanne, your communications messages, do you have a simple graphic in there for like people who haven't been out there to the airport yet to figure out how to find the hangar area, which road to turn down, or will it be marked?
Well, I will have the airport address on there. So I can do a little map or a QR code that takes them, goes straight to their map, on their phone.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah. But yeah, it is, it is gonna have to be something that all the vendors are gonna have to communicate. Well, actually,
Generic thing that shows 35, it shows the airport. It
Yeah.
shows turn here.
Yeah, we'll have some signs to indicate.
They had to have people direct people to get off of the road and you have to turn into the airport. And they had people flagging.
Say, plant yourself this
way.
We'll see what the chamber's doing, because when I've had discussions with them earlier this year, they realized that
they've got to do something to get people out there and to get people to know where to go. So I'm sure that they're working on it, but I can double check with them.
I can do some little board signs that say plant sale this way along the right of ways. Sure, something fun.
Yeah.
I love to be a flagger.
You're high.
Well, I guess it's.
Do some clever, like the old shave signs, you know, that used to be on the highway.
Yeah.
Y'all remember those?
Pharmacy.
Yeah, we can. we can do that.
As long as the airplanes don't go.
I just have a quick question, because last year it made sense for us after people purchased to do a little hole so they could go walk in. Are we still gonna be planning for something like that, like a holding area?
We will, and we want to communicate to them that they need to like not get on the bus and
Right.
leave and come back that, I mean, or they can, but that they're not gonna be able to get their stuff after a certain time. Yeah, we'll do all that. Okay.
Great, thank you very much, Debbie. Doing a great job.
Was that event pretty well attended at the airport?
It was.
So there you go.
So easily. A couple hundred people were out there at the time I was out there.
Great.
Good. Well, let's try to wrap the reports up in the next 10 minutes. So we'll start with Bob, as past president. Before we have his report, we've got something for him. Bob, has earned his 1,000 hour. Start, thank you very much. We're still doing this 10 years from now, it'll take that long. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're good.
I have nothing to report because this job is really easy.
Thanks for the board.
Elle is looking for somebody to shadow her to be secretary. So that she can, take us, put a little more focus on outreach stuff in Victoria, Cuero, McAllister Ranch area. So, if you know somebody who's got that kind of qualification or interest, aim them to Elle. She is agreed, she'll kind of hold over as needed into next year, but, it's time for us to start looking for somebody to pick up for her and learn from her. That's my report.
Thank you. So Bob, chairman of the nomination committee. This position. So, first started talking about Chelsea and welcoming her to our board. And so it's her turn as a class representative. 24. Comments.
Yeah, so again, I just want to thank Jeremy and Kate for everything that they did for our class. I think we had a very close class. I seemed to, really become friends with everybody. And I think one of the saddest things was, I was like, when am I gonna see these people again? So it's good to see, some of the members here. And hopefully we'll get to see them in the future. I think just as we move on in the future, I think the social media that you guys are doing is so wonderful because a lot of people don't know about our program. There's even a bunch of teachers that I've spoken with, because if you don't know, I'm an 8th grade science teacher for Reverend Portland Middle School. And a lot of people just don't know that we're something. And so one of the things that I would like to do is I'd like to try and get our name out there in more of the school system. I know that Martha McLeod is working really hard with Rockport, with her students, so I'm looking to see is that something that we can incorporate into GP. And some of the programs that we got to go to as classes, I didn't know they existed, like some of the nature centers and things like that. So again, just trying to get that out there and get our name out there a little bit more. And so hopefully, we'll have a full class come 2025 and, I've already had some of our members contact me just asking for help with volunteer hours. So I'm definitely trying to do the best I can with directing them towards people or, just questions about like, do I just go and volunteer? So I've talked to them about volunteer coordinators, who do they need to get in contact with? And then kind of how to put it into the system and things like that. So just trying to do what I can to make it a little bit easier for some people. But, yeah, so I will start back teaching in August, but I do plan to be as productive as I can with this class and help however I can.
Wonderful.
Just real quick, so something that Chelsea's really interested in is snakes.
Yeah, so my background is in animal husbandry and water chemistry. So I got my master's in science. I used to work for the Texas State Aquarium and did a lot of work with their sea turtles and their education animals. So in my classroom, I have quite a menagerie. I have snakes, tarantulas, a bearded dragon, a turtle, a one-eared rabbit. And so I'm very passionate about helping students connect with those types of animals and how can I use them in my teaching. And so becoming a Texas Master Naturalist, that was something that I really wanted to, continue learning about for myself. So yeah, definitely anything with herpetology or things like that I'm interested in. And I went to a state park in North Texas, Ray Roberts State Park, during spring break, and they were doing a presentation. It was a Texas Master Naturalist. She was there with a couple of different species of snakes, and there were probably 100 people there to listen to her little talk, and they got to take pictures with the snakes. And I thought, oh, I would love to do that down here at maybe Goose Island or, something like that. I would love to educate people. Because one thing that irks me is people who say the only good snake is a dead snake. It just chaps my hide. But so that's definitely something I would like to help with our chapter. I did a presentation for Me by the Sea for Texas A&M Corpus Christi not too long ago. And I got my picture in the Corpus Christi Caller-Times, and that's what I did. I presented to teachers about different animals and things like that. And so I'm just hoping to continue that with our chapter as well.
So Edward Quintero, the superintendent at Goose Island, he's really into herping, so he would be easy to connect with.
Wonderful, okay.
And that's why I wanted to mention it, because I couldn't tell her exactly who was our president.
Yeah, so I did reach out to Cindy and I had asked, but recently I've been working with Queens Rescue Center. So I've been doing a lot of work with them, with a lot of their birds and their education program. I actually helped evacuate all the birds when we were freaking out about the hurricane. And so I've become, and I love them. It's such a wonderful team and everything. I didn't consider myself a bird person, but I love them. But yeah, I would love to really find and connect somebody with herpetology, and I'd be that girl out in the field with a snake stick and my boots and trying to wrangle up things. And so I'd love to have that opportunity as well, if anybody knows.
You're also on the Wellby website.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did keonnect with, so when I was out there and I asked her, I was like, are you gonna be mad if I pick it up? And she was like, no, I found an Eastern hognose, and so we're sharing that with everybody. So yeah.
So you know, our last year new class director is now like an advisor and agri agent.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you have big things ahead of you.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I've been teaching, this will be my 12th year of teaching, but I gotta tell you guys, it's getting harder and harder every year. So as my daughter's in 7th grade, as she starts getting older and stuff, I definitely am hoping to find something more where I can be outside, and I'd still love to educate people, teach people, but I'm hoping with Texas Parks and Wildlife or something that maybe in the future.
Yeah.
I can find something.
Well, we're delighted to have you as a
Well, thank
member
you
and
so much. I
member of the
appreciate it.
board as well. So thank you. And so our chapter advisor, we got a promotion from class representative.
Don't really have an official report, but I do have a proposal. Are we gonna wait for that?
We're gonna wait for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I have no report.
Good. Well, let's do this. Let's take a 15-minute break, have lunch, stretch legs.
How about 5-minute break?
5, 10?
Did people bring their lunch?
I didn't bring my lunch.
Okay. 5-minute break.
Sorry.
You know, like, everywhere I go, I mean, you know, I guess I can never share. So this is, it's got a lot. I know some perfect. If you look at it now. They graduated from. She's the best. She'll be a 7. And I love being there with her. But yeah, I hope this is gonna be your next school. I'm probably, some people certify, some people, and that's why
Insurance.
Which is hard.
If you were to do one. With all. We actually went to.
This is what's gonna be. I think it's. Really.
Yeah, so I,
It's smaller.
I'm wondering, which recertification is this?
So it's. I mean, I don't. If you're that's true. You're like, based on. So you were saying. Some of them. Yeah.
Okay, let's continue with.
Hey, guys.
Continuing with new business, we, all right. Continuing with new business, we, have already dealt with the candidacy for new training. And so the next issue that I'd like to talk about is the discussion on addition. It really deals with engagement, retention of our members. And so after the class graduation for 2024, Greg and I were talking, and he made the comment that this class, like all new classes, is the seed is the seed stock for our organization. And so started thinking more about that, and Cindy and I started to look at data from prior classes, beginning with the class of 2021 through 2023, to see if we could identify any trends for retention, and for certification and recertification. And so we did. There's
Trying to get it larger.
chart here, but essentially what we found over those three classes is that for the first year, about at least 80%, often higher, members of the class stay involved and pay their dues. So it's an indicator of interest. By the end of the second year, that drops down to around 50% of the class continues to be involved using dues payment as an indicator of involvement. And then by the third year, it can drop down to 30, 25%. So there's a big reduction in class continuation, class retention. And so we started looking further into it. What is the rate of earning certification, both your first certification to become a certified master naturalist, and then recertification in subsequent years. And those drop down as well at pretty much the same rate that I discussed with engagement. And so I was wondering, what could we do? Should we do anything to address that, to look at that, to figure out a plan for improving retention and for improving engagement? That's what I think about Victory Park. Is that a way to get people that aren't involved? The state has a mentor program that we've not really fully, that we've not adopted. And so there's one idea. I sent this data to the current, to Jeremy and Kate, initial training directors, to Sally and Greg, to Chelsea, and to Dee. so people could start thinking about how we might retain people. There's in the class of 23, my class, there were 17 in the class, 8 of whom have become certified or have become recertified, and 9 who haven't. They haven't had any additional certification from their almost their initial training. And so, speaking with a few of my classmates, some of them don't know what to do, or, you know, there's all sorts of reasons. But you know, the whole, the idea of if you teach, you learn more than the students do. So one idea is if we get those people who in the preceding class, not the class of 24, but the class of 23, and move forward other years, to have those people from 23 serve as mentors, coaches for those in 24. Could 24 make sure that it has a higher retention recertification rate, just like so that we can improve engagement of members in our chapter. I don't have a solution right now, and I don't even know if there's a problem in this sense. I don't know if people aren't certified because they moved or become ill. We don't know what the causes are yet, but we do know that those trends exist where there's a dramatic decline in 3-4 years from, 100% participation to third, 25%. So that's a big drop off. And so what I'm suggesting we do is form a small committee, an ad hoc committee that just looks at that, talks with, and comes up with a solution or recommendation for how we can improve engagement as measured by certification, recertification, and just continuation of being active in the chapter. And again, with these new rules from state about active and inactive, which, they're not really rules, they're rules written in soft font. We can adjust those for our chapter. But let's figure out how we can address that issue if it is addressed an issue. Fortunately, I've not been able to speak with Dee yet about it, but I'm hoping that a representative from the directors and Greg and Sally, the directors in the prior 3 and earlier 3 years, maybe Jeremy and his new roommate and could be a part. And AT is involved in that because we have one person who just was awarded the 250-hour service pin, and she has single digits of AT hours.
Yeah.
There could be some just easy coaching things to do. There could be things like seems as though there's more people in this Aransas County area that are active than in other outer counties in the chapter. But as Bob and I and several were talking, Victoria is the largest city in our region. Maybe there's things that could be done, or whether it's carpooling to a meeting, because meeting hours are simple. So pickup service. So anyway, if you're in agreement, I'd like to form that committee over the next couple of weeks. And ask them to take a look at it. Your thoughts on that?
Just one other thing to think about is, maybe thinking about too, how we communicate. So we have a very large discrepancy of people who are not as technology based versus a lot of our younger folks who just me sending out an email, they may or may not read.
Yeah,
I would just think about too, a little bit of, maybe we lose some people after they graduate and because they don't know what's going on, because they don't read emails or they don't go to the website. So just, I think there's, some of it I think is just differences in people, because if I call people, it seems, but I can't call everybody. So it just, I feel like a lot of times they either say, I just really don't use email, or I don't do this, or I didn't know that was going on. So, maybe I think about Deanne and some of her great ideas and communications. I mean, maybe there's another way too. We should. And actually, he was even mentioning some things. So I just think that's one other avenue to potentially look.
a few years ago, I gave a presentation to convention corporate directors, for-profit companies. And this now was probably 6 years ago. 28% of emails were opened and looked at, and 98% of text messages were opened. So that's to your point.
Right. I mean,
So, perhaps there's somebody from communications and outreach that needs to be, not necessarily Deanne, but somebody from your committee, Deanne, that can help from a communication perspective, because it's a complex issue. There's many different factors come into play. But if people aren't communicated with, that's problem number one thing. Yeah.
I know for my perspective and partially Jim's too, I mean, being new to the area, what was the draw for us was social connections with people who were like-minded and wanted to, care about our community that we lived in.
Yeah.
So what about like maybe a social event, scheduling something where everybody does get together for, I mean, you can have it be productive, but also just fun and just getting reacquainted and getting new things to plug into and maybe explain some more things face to face.
Yeah.
When everybody was together and you can meet new people again.
Yeah.
Here with Linda, I was thinking about that, too, in my area, that maybe had like an AT viewing. And, I don't know how many people in my area, like Victoria, wonder if I could call them and say, hey, or send out Facebook notes. Let's join at the library and we'll see the AT together.
Yeah,
And
and then have a
discuss-
discussion.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know Victoria that well, but I know I could do it in Quail, but I haven't talked to Jan and other people more involved in Victoria.
Yeah.
On how to get there, so.
Good.
but
Good.
That's what I was thinking, and
One of the easy things that I think addresses some of that is that we have a newsletter, we're still gonna be doing
Yeah,
newsletter.
Nellie's.
If we're doing the newsletter, it's currently buried behind 4 or 5 layers of menu
Yeah.
approaches. It should be the thing front and center on the front page, which is how almost every other chapter does it. And that way, it not only communicates to your members what's going on, so they can see people who they know who are involved in something, or they can see something that's going on that's in their area. But it also speaks to the public, who when they go to our website says, oh, so that's the kind of thing that they're doing.
I think, I was gonna send you a presentation I would do every year with nonprofits, on recruiting and retaining volunteers. And the common pitfalls that you get behind, because people, if there's a lot of art, which thankfully there's not, we get along great here, but people stop coming if they're not having fun.
Yeah.
And you've got to put a volunteer, because I would have to train volunteers. I had a parish of over 13,000 people that I had to manage, all the ministries at the time. And there was 80 of them. We'd have an annual leadership retreat for each one, just to say, these are just things to remind yourself, start your meetings on time, communicate clearly. you're gonna have conflicts, make it fun, because people have to. Yeah, people are gonna take time out to do something in this.
Yeah,
And then I would go volunteer. I remember the first time I had a team just started that parish and it was brand new. And the lady came in and she was, I want to get involved. I told her this, whatever, something. She's like, that sounds awful. So from then on, I learned if somebody says, I really want to get involved, I says, well, what do you like to do? And so that's the question that needs to be asked. Like, what's fun for you? What do you want to learn? And say, well, yeah, well, that's great. You like snakes. Chelsea likes snakes. Go see Chelsea and help her with that. So, I mean, just having conversations like that.
yeah,
But I'll send you, and we did this at Keep Francis County Beautiful. We would have a leadership retreat every year in January. Just to kind of get the whole team on the same page and brainstorming on what's gonna be important to us this year. You know, what levels do we want to go to on certain areas, but we've always had at least one presentation on being a good volunteer and a good board, just as a healthy reminder.
good.
So that's your thought.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
think that, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One thing I think might help is if the class leader was good with going to 3 years instead of 1. Because the class leader knows what each person enjoys doing. They can keep up with their 18 people. And when a volunteer is, situation comes along, they can be more specific. Because we are very information heavy. And I will be the first to admit that I don't read most of the emails because I just don't, when I sit down at the computer, I just don't usually have that kind of time. I sit down to do something, not to peruse,
Right.
So, but I know if I want to learn something, I can go there and find it. But I think that if there was, it would be a kind of a big job. Because that person would have to keep up with all the opportunities and then, send a text and say, hey, I think you'll like this volunteer opportunity. And I think that would be probably a successful way of doing it.
A lot of what we did was surveying. So at the beginning of the year, it's like, it's
Yeah.
January, new year. I use Survey Monkey and just send it out and say, these are the areas that we do in here. What sounds fun to you? And maybe make it easier for some people who've been kind of pigeonholed and doing their one thing since this year, I want to kind of take time off or whatever. But you can say, these are gonna be my priorities. This year are things that I'd like to learn, things that I want to do. How much time do I want to give?
Yeah,
How much do I understand the advanced training? So how that works, what's the best way to communicate to me? Text first, because I agree, text is so much easier for me. Readers for the yoga classes I take.
right,
I'd
right.
be very happy to put together a general survey to the whole chapter
Right.
that you can just assess what needs to be, where we need to fill gaps and with our board members and,
Yeah,
and then
Just one thing I would say though, I don't need to send most of you in here an email to tell you things that you need to think about. So to me, it's a little bit more like it's the 4 people that we still have left in 2023 that, something's not right, we just haven't reached out. And 2024, you'll have a handful of those too. So we could do something global, or I still feel like watching VMS. No one needs to call me and tell me anymore. Last year, I felt like we used it. But I kind of figured it out because I met Debbie Menz and I learned about ICF and I started doing some things. I don't have to call Greg Simmons. He's pretty busy. I know you're busy. I know you guys are busy now, or 2024. So I think it is really we could look at the whole, or we could even look at it more from, I think some people are falling through the cracks, or we just don't know. They have other issues.
right.
But at some point, we'll have to make a decision about what their category is.
How much is EMS itself the obstacle? Because I know
That's
in classes
I
where,
think that's huge.
when I was the training director, the probably the biggest obstacle,
Entering
keeping
time.
people involved. Was that, they said, the hell if I'm gonna put up with this system, I'm gonna do the things that I wanna do. And if this is the price of being in this organization, I don't need that headache.
I think that is some of it. Probably not all of it, because once, it seems like, I don't know, how do you guys feel about it? I mean, I can do it now. I understand, of course, I'm deep into it. So it's not hard to me anymore. Right, it's just, yeah, but I think some of you powered through it. You guys have all powered through it.
I'm still bad.
It's okay, I don't mind, but there are some people that it is realistic. And I could probably name you a couple of, I mean, name you a handful of them just off the top of my head. And those are some of the people that make phone calls to.
So I wonder if ending a class with a follow-up tutorial on VMS would be helpful.
It might be.
Otherwise, you're only getting an orientation,
Or
and you don't know how anything works.
a VMS support group.
How about a chapter website, go find some things and let's go enter some stuff in the VMS, because once you learn how to use the chapter and VMS together, it's all kind of linked.
Like a scavenger.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like maybe something like that, because I do feel like we kind of like everybody graduates, they go away. I know I sat around and said, I wonder how I'm gonna get my helpers. I haven't quite figured out I didn't know I liked snakes. I don't think you like snakes. So. I don't hate them. But,
I think in terms.
but that's
of
actually a good
whatnot,
idea.
It is a great advantage when you're including in a description of an opportunity that here's how you report it.
Yeah.
That reporting hurdle just seems to be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is huge for some.
If you read through the state's suggested program for the mentor gets assigned in January before the person even shows up for orientation. This guides that person through it to, you have orientation 1st of February in your all's case. On the 8th, the mentor's back in touch with you. Did you understand how to use VMS or whatever? Whatever it is, somebody that relationships are important. I think those are most important, keeping people involved in an organization. Whether it's a volunteer organization or a work organization, it's relationships. And initial training is so structured, and then all of a sudden you're on your own. So I think there's some things that we're not able to do structurally to help promote that. And I'm really interested in how do we get people from the prior class over that certification, recertification hump, as well as the new class. So I know you had some thoughts that you want to share. Or you done?
I just wanted to share that this communication thing, people say you don't read emails. And this wouldn't be a solution, but it would be an adjunct. What I use with my turtle program to communicate to my boat captains is one group and my transport volunteers is another group. I use an app called Send Hype. And that's where I can send a message to all of them. But you know how it's annoying when you're on a group message and everybody starts replying back? It doesn't do that. What it does is I can send it out to them, and when they reply, it just comes back to me. So that, I don't know if that would be helpful in like new volunteer opportunity, fill the hummingbird feeders, contact this person. And I don't know, is a communication tool more like texting? Is that, you know, if they're not reading their emails, would that reach more people? I don't know that, but I just threw that out there for another different communication tool. Send Hype is the name of the app.
Send Hype.
Jim.
Well, I had one suggestion. You mentioned the difference in how many people read text versus emails.
Right.
If we were to receive one text a month that had our exact totals, like the time reports come out, let's say. You know, we could look at that for the whole chapter, but if it came to me and it said, pardon me, I have no idea how many hours I have. Because to me, it's like reading insurance forms.
Oh, to read that. No, I agree. And there is a much better way.
No reflection on you, you do a wonderful job in communicating, that's a suggestion.
Okay, well, I got to have a sense that people are willing to explore this, see if there's a solution that we can come up with that involves communication, service opportunities, training, advanced training opportunities. And perhaps mentoring opportunities that would be a solution to this. Bob,
Can I suggest though that you probably need to be realistic about the longevity scope? So I'm class of 2017. I doubt if half of the people from my class still even live in this area.
Right.
And I don't know how many of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
dropped by the wayside
Yeah,
long ago anyway. Realistically, you're probably looking at about a 5-year time period where, you know, if you still got people involved in 5 years, you're doing really well.
you are. In fact, I asked Cindy just yesterday if she could get those. We have 3 years, get those other 2 years so that we can
Well,
take a look at it. But the point is, there's gonna be dropout. That's just sort of life. There's some people that, you know, we know too, it seems like, master naturalist is their life. And there's some people where it's not, or maybe it gets
So,
not even a thought.
Don't know if you guys look at those reports, but class of 2019, awesome.
I did, yeah.
Attention.
Yeah,
And part of me wonders too, was there something, I told him this COVID or something like that in between that kind of made it harder to.
Yeah. Yeah.
The classes, but 2019 and 2020, I think look pretty good. 2019.
they do. Yeah. Better than 20. But in any, so,
20.
well, here's the thing, if you're in this, if you're a person in this room, you show initiative. We're not worried about it. What we're calling is for y'all to think of what we can do to help.
So if 20 is a banner year, then the reality is drop your program halfway through and figure out how to pick it up in the fall.
Greg, any thoughts? Give me thoughts, sure.
I think, I like the idea of the committee, you know, we're batting around a lot of different ideas, you know, but, you know, I think we should just continue thinking about it, and, I think there's a lot of different ways we can attack the problem. I like the idea of having some group participation in projects, and, you know, just trying to get people assigned to a project and knowing people within that project, and having
You know,
a separate communication. from
Yeah,
the Project leader to get them out there. to
Yeah.
participate.
And that way, you know, to Deanne's point, if we have a survey, 4 people graduate and find out what they're interested in, we might be able to help them. There's
Because if you put somebody on a project that they fail at, it's gonna make them, they're
Yeah.
gonna hurt their attendance. So you're not gonna put somebody in charge of a computer project that doesn't, you know, so we just gotta find out what they want.
yeah. And as I said, I suspect all of us, we knew something that we wanted to do and we started doing it and it's worked out. There's lots of people that demonstrate that initiative, especially when school's out, so to speak.
well, and the thing is, so as an example, I guess it was like 2 months ago, Bridget, that we did the oyster catcher reef. When we went and built it all up, you know, so that was a group project, we all worked together, afterwards we went and had lunch, but the communication was just from her and her husband giving us that information. And it was hard work, but it was a lot of fun, it was
Yeah,
fun to get
yeah.
there were a couple of people from my class there. So just working together as a group, I mean, nobody wants to be out there, moving bags of oysters. That's probably not anybody's interest, but the fact that we worked as a group, the communication was really wonderful. And then afterwards we went and ate and we all just got to chit chat and just talk
Yeah,
about things.
yeah,
It was really enjoyable.
yeah,
So I think that's something we should really try and focus on.
right.
I'd like to, my husband, he got to really know our neighbor very well. You get two men across the table, or your husband or wife across the table that let's talk. It's like, that was a man. But you get them working on a project together, him and Trey talk about, they were at Wings Rescue helping building ramps there. They came back just closer friends. Because they're working on a shared project and, oh, by the way, are you gonna go fishing next week? It's that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's.
And I think that's why a lot of people join a program like this, is because they want to have friends that like the same thing as they like. They
Mhm.
want to have people that they can go work with and then go have lunch with, or, get together and go to a meeting with and catch up. I know that's something I'm looking for.
Right,
Is being able to meet people and, have a social life outside of my job that, wears me down. So.
good, yeah, good. Jeremy,
Yeah, I'd just like to, add a little bit of clarification as far as the understanding of BMS. First off, everything's gonna be changed likely once we get the new version, so this is all gonna go out the window, but at least as far as this last class, obviously everyone learns how to do it in orientation. We go through it ad nauseum to make sure that hopefully everyone understands. But then in addition to that, especially the first couple classes, in the follow-up emails, we were sending detailed instructions
And that
on
was.
how to do it step by step. And then over the course of the classes, we tone it down until we're basically showing exactly how it would be mentioned in an email, how to report the different categories in that little list, so that they can get used to what they're going to be seeing later on as full members rather than just trainees. So I like to think that helps some people who were at least able to kind of follow along with that and get more comfortable that way. Yes, there were still some people that had some difficulty that Cindy's still working with. I think that is a great opportunity for a mentor, maybe to have someone or several someones lined up even before orientation to, if we have some people that seem like they're having trouble, we connect them at that point and say, look, this person's here. They will walk you through it and really stick with you until you feel comfortable. I think that would certainly be beneficial as well.
And it's one thing to just tell somebody how to do it, but to sit there at a computer and show them, it's just like with students, it's, it's
do it
much
all together.
Yes, and where after if you have an example that you can help them input, I think that's really beneficial.
yeah, right.
Master Gardener program does that. They have a lady.
That too.
Yeah, they're trying to, it's kind of that most of you have a pretty good sense of it. My emails can only help. It's just like, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts? Thank you. The next thing deals with, plan. You'll remember that a couple of years ago, we got a nice $5,000 donation in December. And last year, we got another several $1,000 donation in December. And so I started thinking, coming in December, it's often the times when people over 72 now have to make a required minimum distribution from IRA, 401k, retirement account. And if you make those contributions to a nonprofit organization like us, then that's not considered to be taxable income by the IRS. So there's that. It's called a qualified charitable donation. And so I learned that Tracy Bennett has a lot of experience in planned giving. And we started talking about, she and I, what might be done so that people in our organization might make a gift. And I said, if it's, your personal account, you don't have to start making those donations for required minimum distribution until you're 72. If, for example, you inherited an IRA from your parents, they're deceased. If that person, if your parent had already been making those contributions, you would have to continue making those contributions, even if you're 50 years old, whatever age you are, if your parent had already done that. So my point here is, it's not just for people that are members of our chapter that are 72 and older. It's for any of us who might have been gifted an IRA account from one of your deceased parents. So talking with Debbie, she said that she'd be happy to lead a group that would explore that. How do we communicate to members of the opportunity to give in a tax-free manner? How requires some work on our part, because for it to be tax-free, then we would have to send documentation to the person who made the gift so that they're able to file that with their 1040 and claim that as a taxable or tax-free contribution. So there's different parts in there, from how to receive that money, receive that through the web, but you have to have some sort of tickler then to send the tax documents to the person who gave the gift. So that's something that, again, Debbie said that she would help us think through and lead and communicate with. So she's
Debbie or Tracy?
Tracy, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Tracy Bennett. Tracy Bennett. Like Debbie got other things. I thought I grow a manicure. So anyway, that's just something else that I think we can take an opportunity of looking at to raise money. And Tracy also deals with grant writing for other gifts from other organizations. So if would we want to do that? If we would, as Greg was mentioning, we have to have a project that could go toward that we might not be able to afford to do right. So but we don't want to conflict with our partners, organizations that support us. So there's lots of different moving parts to that. It seems to me that might be a way for us to fund bigger projects. It would be a way for individual members to make a smaller gift to our organization. And I'd like to move forward with that. Any thoughts and discussions? Some silence means consent. Okay, Debbie's out of town now, Tracy's out of town now, and I'll talk more with her when she gets back, but she seemed pretty excited to get involved in that force. So our next item on the agenda is
Mr. Gavin. Mr. Gardner.
and we also
Liz. I don't know. Yeah.
Need the extra syllable. Make it flow. You can share. We're going back to the same place.
Everybody get one? Okay, and, I'm gonna try to do this quickly, and so, thanks for hanging in there. All right, so as many of you know, I'm Amy Nallen. Yes, I was last year's class representative, and then I had the opportunity to get hired, with Texas AgriLife in Matagorda County. At which time I was presented the opportunity to, become an advisor to the group. So I didn't want to have two votes. I couldn't have two votes. So we had to have another class rep take that position. But yeah, I loved it. And I'm so thrilled that you're a part of this. You're gonna love it. All right, so, yes, and as part of my AgriLife role, I also have Texas Sea Grant, duties. They pay half of my paycheck. So with that, I deal a lot with the oyster farming industry. Especially in Matagorda County, where we have the Palacios Marine Agricultural Research Center. There's a lot going on, and Bridget talked about it earlier. There's just so much talk about oysters right now. It's wonderful. I've learned over the past year, I've learned so much about it, and it's so exciting, and I never thought I would be so into oysters, but they really are fascinating. In a recent meeting, let me explain. So I am part of AgriLife, but I'm part of Sea Grant. Sea Grant has 100% Sea Grant employees that are also within Matagorda County. Mario Marquez, he is the agriculture specialist out at PMAR. And him and I got to talking the other day, and we were thinking, there's so much going on with this oyster stuff, and we're trying to, restore the reefs and do just all these like coastal resiliency projects. So Mario was like, hey, he was like, do you think your master naturalist would, like the idea of oyster gardening? And I'm like, well, what's oyster gardening? I mean, I know what oyster farming is, So, he explained it to me a little bit, but he directed me to the Galveston Bay Foundation. They have, and that's what I handed out today, because they have got a tremendous project going, a lot of participation, volunteer participation. It's a great program to follow, it's great guidance. So I looked at it and I thought, you know what? I was like, this not only needs to be happening for the Mid-Coast chapter, but why not expand it all the way to Nueces? And I was thinking, yeah, we could even incorporate and collaborate with our South Texas chapter of Master Naturalist. So I called Mary Pearl at the state. I talked to her a little bit about it. I was like, okay, this is an idea, just wanted to check some things out before I ran with this. And she was like, oh yeah, she was like, you could do a multi-county project. It's no different, y'all do your thing, they do theirs, each report separately, but y'all all work together as, to accomplish one goal, one mission. Okay, so in doing all this, I got contacted back from the Galveston Bay Foundation, and they're like, Amy, we just talked to HRI, and they are asking the same things you're asking. So I thought, okay, so I called HR to Park Research Institute, talked to Troy Tiffin over there and Chapman Ellis. So we decided just to come to a round table. So right now, AgriLife, Sea Grant, HRI, PMAR, we are getting this discussion going forward. So what I would like to propose is to take a look at this project, and hopefully, if there's enough interest, we can move forward with this. This would be a great volunteer opportunity, not just for education, but for service hours, volunteer service hours.
Yeah.
And so you're probably thinking like what I did, like what is oyster gardening? So just simple terms is we supply, and this would be 100% grant funded project. So it wouldn't cost anything to the chapter. Because we are gonna try to collaborate with some of the local Bay foundations. Hopefully the San Antonio Bay, will want to be included, help out. And so, and I know just from speaking to the people at Galveston Bay, they say they don't spend any more than $2,000 to $3,000 a year in material supplies expenses. So it's very reasonable, very affordable. So basically what it is we supply little mesh bags or cages or whatever, strategy we come up with. They put oyster shell in these bags. Then either private property owners or working in public waterways, with, volunteer groups. We can put these oysters in the water. So what's gonna happen? Spat, the baby oysters are gonna hopefully find their way to these oyster shells and attach. So then basically the gardening becomes growing the spat, growing the oysters in there. There's a time period, I believe it's like maybe 4 to 6 months of tendering your garden, checking on them, making sure everything's fine. And then what happens is, there's a collection period. Everybody comes and, does the collection and they get relocated out to your restoration site. Now, permits, do you have to have permits to do this? No. You have to have a permit for relocation, yes. But to just stick a bag of oyster shell off your pier, off your, deck or wherever, you don't have to have a permit, you can do that. When we collect and then we relocate, you have to have one permit, there's no charge. So it could be every one of us in the room, we would fall under one permit. I am trying to look into that a little closer because it might be per bay system. But regardless, if anybody in the Matagorda Bay would fall under that, anybody in the Aransas Bay would fall under that, so on and so on, so on.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple process. So I just feel like this would be a really good group. From spanning from Matagorda all the way down to Nueces. So I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts, see if there's any interest. I know PMAR is willing to back this up heavily. I'm sure the local Bay Foundation will all the coast.
So we would just have like come get your bags.
Come get your bag.
Like on one, whatever.
Yeah, basically.
Is it done on a specific time of the year?
Yes, so what it is that they do it during the spawning season. So the spat is in the water, it's the baby oysters.
Yeah, but when is?
Ah, gosh, I hear you ask that. I think it's in the winter time. Is it in the winter or no?
I don't think so. I think it's in the.
It's spring?
Maybe in the fall.
I don't know.
Late summer to fall, maybe?
Let me see if I wrote it down my notes. Cause I know it was like a 4 to 6 month period. Oh, here it is. April to June, collection is in October to November. Yeah, yeah.
Our months end up not on.
That's what the Galveston Bay Foundation does. But they do it for a reason. So probably because of the spawning and, they grow to a certain maturity, then they can be relocated. So anyway, any other thoughts or comments?
So we're prevented from volunteering at personal property. The pier, if we're talking about our own waterfront, the pier would belong to us. The water that the bag is hanging in is public property.
Right.
And did you discuss that? Could you discuss that with Mary Pearl about how that would impact?
No, she didn't mention.
Volunteer.
No, she didn't mention that, but I'll ask her. Because I did ask her if there was any holdups or anything about that. She didn't seem to think so. And I believe the master naturalists in the Galveston area are part of it too, but I can double check with that.
I would talk to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, the wardens and or the GLO. Because
Yeah.
GLO is in charge of the waterways.
Yeah, and that's who the Galveston Bay Foundation they get their grant funding, 100% from the GLO to do their.
Or
So,
there's some public properties where the chapter could get permission from, like, the pier out at
Yeah.
State Park.
yeah, we could probably get permission, we would have to. Yeah, and so,
I think to add your question about whether this is VMS eligible, such a question.
Yes.
On propagating plants on the private property, in the native plant sale. We're gonna take you to the plant sale, we're gonna sell them to the chapter fundraiser. And all the time that I'm putting in propagating plants is reportable under VMS. So
I guess
if you think of this as oyster propagation for a public purpose.
Yeah.
It should work the same way.
Yeah. So I guess it's just improvements to your public property that would be ineligible.
mhm.
So yeah, you're not really affecting your personal property value
So like
or.
building milkweed garden in my
Yeah.
own property and then trying to charge
Yeah,
that.
that's good. It's a good point.
Yeah, and I know I asked her specifically if there were any causes or concerns, and she wrote me back and she's like, no, she actually loved the idea. And, she was like, if this, she's like, if this can, gets up and running, she was wanting me to do a little program about it. I was like, but yeah, so I just thought this would be a good opportunity, for, it would be open to the public as well, of course, but I thought that, there's so many volunteers already in the Master Naturals programming, why not start here?
Yeah. Do we have the same oyster species here that they have in Galveston Bay?
Yes,
And so
they're all pretty much the same
They're all pretty much the
species.
same?
Yeah, they're all the same species, they just, yeah.
In terms of hours, once you drop it in right onto your pier, there's not a whole lot more work you do.
Not really. I think you just have to make sure that, the bag stays clear and clean, free from algae buildup.
Okay,
So I-
so there's some.
Right, there's a little bit of maintenance there because, if not, then the algae would prevent the oyster from growing.
Sure.
So yeah, so you just have to check on it regularly. And also, I'm sure, you're gonna have your natural predators that are gonna get in there,
Neighbors.
Yeah, and so, yeah, and this would, just to let you know that you're growing these oysters not for consumption, these would not be for eating or selling for, because it's for restoration purposes
Right.
only. Yeah,
So it says you have to desiccate, probably weekly.
yeah,
So you would take them out and, leave them, we leave our oysters out of the water like overnight. We go
Okay.
out late at night, take them out, and then, or after sundown, take them out of the water, flip the cage over so they're exposed, and that way all the little stuff dies off.
right,
And then the next morning, you just drop it back in, so that would be,
yeah,
no, not at that point, just after, we clean them when we harvest, but that, and then the water, when they're resubmerged, the water, the tide and the water will kind of wash off the dead stuff.
right.
So, can y'all hear me? This is Steve Marwitz.
Yeah.
Hey, great presentation. If we decide to go down this path, Amy, count me in. On that, I guess I have an interest in learning more about Galveston Bay on how once the oysters are gardened, to make sure we have a place to put them. That it's not going to be a bottle or a narrow point in the road, so that we can do that.
It's sites that we would be, driven to. I mean, like, we have to get a permit and that we would have to take them to those certain areas. And this is all, I mean, this all just came about like a week ago or so.
Right.
So still very much in the process of learning. In fact, I'm gonna be going to Galveston, for a conference, soon. And I was gonna make time to go to the Galveston Bay Foundation and meet with them, sit down and like, get more information face to face. Because right now, I mean, this is all very beginning stages, just a discussion, but there's a lot of people that are really interested and involved in getting this.
So down here, Jennifer Pollock seems to be the heart research or person who is most involved in placing shell or strata
Okay.
for oysters in, say, Charles Bay, Goose Island and in Coconut Bay, places like that. I noticed that she was on Bridget's list of presenters for the
Oh, yeah.
oyster.
She hasn't confirmed yet.
Okay.
no.
She's
But this is
definitely
just
a
another topic we could add to our symposium.
Exactly,
We could ask Galveston Bay
Yeah.
Foundation to come and present what
Exactly.
they've done.
exactly right, yeah.
Dr. Pollock would definitely be the
Okay.
person I would think most knowledgeable about
Mhm.
where you would be able to use these propagated
And
oysters for placement in these bays.
if you go, I'm not sure if he's printed out very small. I don't think it's on there. No, it's not on this one. But if you just Google Galveston Bay Foundation, oyster gardening, there's more information and they actually have an area map, but it pinpoints their relocation sites. And, so you can kind of get an idea of, you know, where their aim is, and so it give us an idea of where we can maybe focus on.
I have a whole bunch of questions.
Okay, I'll try to answer.
Heart research, is this like a medical
No,
experiment?
no, it's they're part of Texas A&M Corpus Christi. They have different,
Yeah.
different divisions, different research.
There,
areas.
it's an institute within the UT Corpus Christi A&M system.
Yeah.
It's HARTE, it's a person's name.
All right.
Yeah.
That helps.
And the division or department rather, that I'm communicating with is the oyster research and recovery.
Oh, okay.
So,
So then my next question is, you give us the bags, but then do we just go along the beach and collect oyster shells?
no, you would get everything.
Oh, you
You
give
would
us
get
the
the-
shells
yeah,
and
yeah.
everything?
And that's kind of where, PMAR was thinking they could help with that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so-
then a question about oyster growth. So, I mean, they are a bivalve, right?
Mhm.
So if you only have half the oyster shell, do they grow in a second
No,
side?
it's, so the shell is just yeah, because the spat has to attach to something stable.
Oh, okay.
Like the spat is, you know, they can move around, but once they attach to something, that's it. And so the spat
So
then
then
over
it's gonna
period,
grow its new shell.
it goes,
with
it's,
that.
yeah. Yeah, it won't grow into the shell, just grow on top of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and then from there and there and there, so, you know, sometimes, have you ever
That's
seen those
why
big
they grow
clumps?
so big.
Yeah.
Because it's just reattached.
Yeah, it's just reattaching.
All right, well then that's it. That's
Yeah,
fine.
and they usually grow about an inch, a year out in the wild, but farmed grows a little bit quicker.
So do you have to empty out your bag and look at each little shell to see what's attached?
I think you would just be able to lift it up and, you know, clean it. That's why I'm gonna ask, that's why I need to sit down and ask, like, or, you know, take me out there, show me, like, one of the
So
volunteers
a
maybe,
spat,
show me.
is it pretty visible? I mean. you can see it with your
Spat is smaller than like a finger, it's very small, but they grow, cause they're feeding on like the algae and the plankton and that's on top of the water mostly, and so they're growing at a fast rate.
Oh,
And then they start to form their calcium carbonate, it's their shell,
oh,
and then it
okay.
starts to form. And they, like I said, they grow about an inch a year. What was I gonna say? Oh, they, I don't know, what about like 4 or 5 months, they'll be maybe like that big, maybe? Maybe a little bigger.
I don't know, I mean, I only know about the farmed oysters and.
Yeah.
They're saying they grow faster, but we put our oysters, our babies in the water in June, and we started harvesting in the first of the month, so 6 months later, and some of our oysters that are individual oysters were so full of spat. We had to like knock it
Knock them
off,
off,
so they
yeah.
were growing, and some of the spat was like
Mhm.
an inch
Yeah,
already, and we
Yeah.
had to like knock those off.
Right.
Oysters.
yeah, and if she's talking about like knocking them off, but they will find somewhere else to reattach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because even in the wild, when the fishermen go out there and harvest dredge and get the wild caught by law, anything under 3 inches has to be put back.
They start up at about the size of your fingernail, maybe your little finger, and larger. So that's what you're looking at when you start this project. I think this fits in holistically with everything that's going on with oysters in the state of Texas, really. And it's just another part of maybe it's the fourth leg of a stool, you know,
Yeah.
that brings up awareness. I really like this. I think it's just exactly the type of stuff that is perfect for us as master naturalists to be involved with.
And I can get, PMAR has these little tubes. They have, samples of the spat, like the life cycle. So I can bring them next time to show y'all. I wonder, actually Pat has them. I wonder if they're in his office.
I have pictures of spat.
Okay.
I have pictures of seed.
Oh, yeah. but they have them at the different growth rates.
Of course.
The cats already take a lot, I bet they're.
Debbie, if you send that to me on email, I can project it.
Okay.
And you can create a YouTube
You involve
video.
Bill Burge in this
No,
individually? 'Cause
No.
He's the oyster guy.
yeah. I was hoping I'd see him. But yeah, this all just happened like, just a couple of weeks ago and then, the storm kind of everything, but I did want to get the discussion because I knew we were meeting and I told the group that I was, we had this board meeting and that I wanted to go ahead and, present this as a proposal and
Email message.
Email.
get some, just get talking, the discussion going.
Okay, what happens when a hurricane comes? Like,
We can all bust it up.
do you go pick up the bag and put them somewhere else where they're safe, or?
Well,
I mean, just leave
I mean,
it
there
there?
would be
Well,
time.
I'm besides evacuating, but you do things at the bag.
You hope to hear that there's.
Yeah, it's okay, yeah, I think that they would be okay. I mean- Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you could be cool.
I mean, you can create, it hasn't been, right, you or someone can create a how-to video that kind of gets all the information on it, and it can be sent out just
Yeah,
to everybody.
well, yeah, and that's kind of what we were thinking, like,
We
once
could do
we,
a Facebook boost to,
Yeah.
I did all, whenever we had the, something, the Hurricane Winterstorm Uri for the
Mhm.
Turtle Patrol. I had, Keith Aransas County Beautiful did a specific post to every single shoreline from here to, like, let's say, into Louisiana,
Mhm.
to be on the lookout for sea turtles and
Okay.
we got a lot of attraction.
yeah, and that's kind of what we had discussed, we're like, well, once we can get this going and rolling, that we would have to have, because that's what Mary Pearl did say. She said the only thing you would initially have to do is have, a training, of course. So yeah, that would fall into that, we could, do some videos. And she said, as far as, working, with the South Texas chapter, that we would just do everything we would normally do, just, collaborate together, but report separately, of course, so. And then, of course, with the help of the local Bay Foundations, PMAR and HRI, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for some funding to cover this, especially since, and I know we're looking at covering a much larger area, I mean, from Matagorda down to Oasis than just Galveston Bay, so that $2,000, $3,000, it might be a little more realistically because of the area. But I think with the amount of different, if one Bay Foundation can get it covered with a grant, I'm sure. Working together, we can.
There's somehow everybody got their own, not merge or something, it's like, I'm in this, I'm a member of this kind of thing, like
Mhm.
CCA that. You can say, see the kayak. where
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm that person too.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, well, they have, the Galveston Bay, it's their Facebook page, it's like that. Oh gosh, it was really witty too, now I can't remember what it, but they have their own little, like, organization that they call themselves, and just like, you're talking about the social part aspect of this. The volunteers do just that, I mean, I looked at their Facebook page, and it's like they have meetings and events at their houses, and they do all kind of things together, on their own, just because they've done this together as a community.
Yeah, so
Really
cool.
well. And, they said that it started out kind of slow, but then, you know how it is, it's like when a few people are doing it, then, your neighbors over here are like, what's going on, what are y'all up to? And then it just kind of spread to like Tiki Island, they're the ones who have that whole group.
Our choice of us, right?
Yeah.
For that, which,
Yeah.
I like it.
I love the idea, I was like, it's sounds like it fits our mission, it would be a group between multiple chapters. We're doing more than just volunteer, I mean, we're actually helping restore, making the waterways healthy. And,
Yeah.
It's kind of like a win-win.
Yeah.
Win. So, well, that's all I have, I'm sorry, I kind of ran through that quickly, but, again, this is work in progress, so as more, more information comes along, I'll be able to share that with you guys. If you have any questions, you can always just reach out to me.
Great presentation. Thank you. Any other business? Okay, one thing before we adjourn, if you're interested in working with Tracy on this planned project idea, please, just let me know. If you need like communication, that's Julie from our financial area.
They already have a video on how to do it.
Good.
Yeah, the
Good.
disregard for training
Okay.
through the Galveston Bay Foundation.
Okay.
So for
anything else?
this meeting, reported as chapter meeting, and service description, you would report it directors and not the person.
I move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Thank you very much.